This podcast is brought to you on Roku and Fire TV by Pod Nation Podcast TV. Find us on X, Facebook, Instagram, or wherever podcasts are broadcast. Download our app and never miss a show with video on demand, as well as exclusive content found only on Pod Nation TV. Live from Bangkok, Thailand, it's the Monster Island Film Vault, episode 96, The Lake versus Jacob Lyngle. Hello, kaiju lovers, and welcome to the Monster Island Film Vault, a podcast seeking entertainment and enlightenment through tokusatsu. I am your host, Monster Island's traveling film curator, Nate Marchand. Yes, Jimmy, I know we had to make some last-minute changes this time around, but I'll get into that. Don't get ahead of me. I don't care if it's in your job description. I swear, you update that yourself every couple of days. I don't trust it anymore. You know what? You can't blame the board for everything, okay? It's just we're not doing that. We're not doing that. All right, and have fun with that new mic, whatever. So today, we are in Thailand. We finally got out of Korea after a harrowing experience in North Korea. Stop reminding me that I'm a wanted man over there, okay? So are you, and so's your fiance, I'm sure. They probably have like a crime for blowing up their favorite kaiju. Well, it's really their only kaiju, but who's keeping track? Apparently I am. Anyway, so today we're in Thailand, and I will explain why we're in Thailand. Unfortunately, here's some bad news for you, kaiju lovers. I was supposed to have my friend Luke Giaconetti from the Earth Destruction Directive podcast on today. I always love having Luke on. He's an incredibly fun dude. And I realized it actually would have been kind of funny because the last time he was on with his brother Jason Giaconetti was for Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster on episode 69, dudes. And now we're at 96, so the numbers got flip-flopped. But I think, honestly, as cool as Luke is, I might have gotten the best guy to have on for this film. None other than the founder and editor-in-chief of Kaiju United, the best kaiju website you will find, and official G-Fest celebrity interviewer, Jacob Lyngle.
It's good to be here, guys. I'm really excited to talk about The Lake. I'm live in the studio with Nate and Uber Magura.
Yeah.
I was lost in a Buc-ee's bathroom in North Korea, and they just happened to swing by. And I'm not a fan of Buc-ee's. I'm much more of a Maverick guy. So I was happy to get abducted by these guys to talk about Thailand kaiju and just get out of Buc-ee's.
Okay. Pardon me for my ignorance, but what's a Buc-ee's?
Buc-ee's is a chain of gas stations in like the Texas area. For some reason, North Korea has one.
It's the one
Probably
capitalist enterprise that they allowed in there?
Yeah, I guess so. So there's a big bucktooth squirrel mascot on the front of every single one. You know, Buc-ee's, buck teeth.
Oh.
And in Texas, they're known for being the largest gas stations in America. The one in North Korea is about average, you know.
Uh-huh.
They had to make room for the basketball court when Dennis Rodman showed up.
Oh, yeah, that guy. The one American they like. Yeah.
Yeah. So
because it's definitely not me right now, or Jimmy.
Yeah, so
definitely not. No. So I have to ask, was there a large squirrel involved in the shenanigans?
Yeah, they have this guy in a mascot costume because now everybody has the rights to Pulgasari, so they can make toys and stuff.
Yeah.
So
they have to use creations actually. Yeah.
Exactly.
And the figure looks better than he did in the movie. So
yeah. So now they can't use that kaiju, and so they have to use the Buc-ee's mascot, and it's like a Disneyland performer, like Mickey Mouse, where it's a guy in a suit.
You know, you might want to test that theory because I'm kind of going back to my time on Henshin Men here. There was a flying squirrel monster made by Shocker, and I hear he's kind of out of work now. So
that might be him.
Yeah,
that might be him.
Yeah, you never know. I mean, did you see something flying around making what sounded like a flatulence powered jet engine?
Yeah, I actually did.
Oh my gosh, Musasa Bito lives. And he's in North Korea. Why am I not surprised? When you're a shocker kaijin, of course you're going to go to North Korea. It'll feel like home.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I mean, it's just like, when you eventually conclude your world tour and you decide to return back to the States.
No, we're going back to Monster Island, unfortunately.
Oh, that's right.
I might get a little bit of vacation time for Christmas, but, I got to go back to Monster Island. So
yes, you have some curating to do. That's right.
Mm-hmm. Yes. What were you saying?
Oh, I was just saying that you'll get a very similar feeling, because you're a fugitive on the run from North Korea. And, the safe embrace of Monster Island is perhaps what this kaijin is feeling with his evil brotherhood and his evil country.
Oh, yeah, for sure. It sounds to me like you need to watch a little more Kamen Rider, which you should totally do because it's on Tubi, so you have no excuse. All 98 episodes. Have fun with that.
I'm on episode 15.
Woo! Yeah, make sure you listen to Henshin Men for all your post show after show needs. There you go, right there.
Nice.
Do not berate me for starting the shameless self-promotion early, Jimmy. Anyway, you hinted at it already. Yes, we are talking about, well, actually, I have a little bit of housekeeping and a mild apology, actually, that I need to make first for this, because
every country has a monster they're afraid of in their nation.
Every monster has a country, yeah, a station they call their home.
And I owe that to you. I almost want to play it a second time because I realized I forgot to play it for the Pulkasari episode, but I'm blaming that on the fact that I was incredibly nervous because I was in North Korea. I had just been shot at by North Korean soldiers who went to the Stormtrooper School of Marksmanship, which was good for me at the time. And, but so I was under a lot of stress. Okay. I was under a lot of stress. So,
Yeah. Sometimes it happens. I just figured it was because of the censorship that you just couldn't play that audio.
Oh, well, I mean, there was that, but the only person who has internet in North Korea is the dear leader, and he just uses it to watch Netflix, apparently. So I guess he's got to get those K-dramas, man. He's got to get those K-dramas.
There you go. Yeah.
He's probably sitting there going, thinking about how his dad always wanted to do this, make some K-dramas and put them on Netflix. Oh wait, his dad probably died before Netflix was a thing, but
no, they had the mail service. They had the mail service.
Sure. Yeah, but you really think they're mailing anything to North Korea? Well, Kim Jong-il probably was, because he's what he probably did is he would get stuff from Netflix and then never send it back. He would just add it to his life.
That is dastardly. That is evil.
And then his son, and then he just when he died, he probably passed on the subscription to his son, and his son is like, huh? What's this?
James Bond and Godzilla?
What? The only movie I ever saw growing up was Pulkasari. Again, I will not stop taking shots at North Korea because come at me, bro. Anyway.
Better watch out or Mecha Dennis Rodman will come
Mecha, oh, good Lord. Don't scare me like that. Do not scare me like that. I don't care if you've seen some schematics floating around on the internet. Why don't they make Mecha Pulkasari? That would make more sense. Well, he's kind of already a metal thing anyway, but whatever. I already did an episode. We're not here to talk about that. What? Oh, good Lord. Yes. So we're in Thailand. Here's the thing. When I was originally putting together the schedule for this season, I thought I only had one option for a Thai kaiju movie. A Taiju? I've actually seen that floating around. Taiju.
Oh man, I think I used that word in my review.
The Blu-ray for this movie actually uses it in a
Oh, that's
featurette.
interesting. It's
I don't
catching
know
on.
I don't know how to feel about that. I really don't, because you got kaiju in Japan, you've got Guamule in South Korea. They do taiju. It's catchy. Taiju. I don't know how to feel about that.
But no, you're 100% right. There's a lot of large monster films coming out of Thailand recently.
Yeah, because at the time,
yeah.
Because initially when I was putting the schedule together, I thought, well, unfortunately for me, there's only one. Garuda.
That one too.
It is technically the first.
It is.
It is technically the first. I was not necessarily looking forward to that, and then suddenly more showed up. I went to G-Fest, and they were getting the hop train all fired up for this movie called The Lake, and it was from Thailand. And I'm like, oh, I have been saved. I was like, I don't care if this one is I don't care if this one is a masterpiece or just okay. It's probably going to be better than Garuda. So I'm just replacing Garuda with that. But then there were, I'm not kidding you, Jacob, there were at least 2 more that have come out since then. I could have spent 3 months in Thailand, but thankfully, the only Thailand critters who escaped, in air quotes, from the island was the big goober from this movie and the smaller one. That was, and maybe an egg. I don't know. There might have been an egg. I don't remember if it probably was, but because they would probably not leave the island without the egg. So those are the ones who got away. Because since then we've had The Beast Below, and we have had, now this one is stretching the definition of kaiju, but Creepy Crawly.
Yes, which is the 100, as it's called in Thailand.
The 100, yeah, because it's about centipedes, big centipedes.
Yes.
Yeah,
big
those
centipedes.
Those have been added to the film vault. I am just not covering them this season, even though I probably could have. But, those were not the ones who got away, and I can only do so much in a season. Cuts must be made. I had to do that last season with Amerikaiju. Oh man, there were some ones that hurt to take off the schedule. There were some ones that hurt a lot. But fear not, kaiju lovers. I have a master list, and there will come a time in the running of this show where I'll just be grabbing movies off of the master list if they didn't quite make it, during their actual seasons. So rest assured, those other Thai kaiju, the Taiju movies, will be coming back around. Yes, even Garuda. Godzilla, help me. Godzilla, help me, Garuda.
It's your destiny, Nate.
Oh, can I return it for a new destiny?
Yeah, you can watch The Beast Below. It's marketed as a comedy film, so maybe you'll have.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, and Creepy Crawly works really hard to look dark and scary because it's more of a horror movie than anything else.
Yeah.
But anyway, so we're here to talk about The Lake. And today's Toku topic, and I have to give some credit to you, Jacob, and I will even, pardon me for saying it this way, I will even give the devil his due, Kaiju Transmissions, because I heard the Kaiju Transmissions interview first of the director. What is his name again? Because I'm having trouble trying to figure out how to pronounce his name.
Well, we'll call him Lee, because I believe it's Funkum, I believe, but I'm not great with names. I'm not name pronunciation.
Yeah, well, Thai words and names are still incredibly new for me. So
Yeah, I'll just refer to him as Lee when I
Yeah.
directly talk about the director of this film.
Yeah, but interestingly, he was born in Thailand, raised in America, and then moved back to Thailand, which is why his English is actually pretty good.
Yes. Yeah, he was going to try and make films, and I think it was in our interview, Miami. It was like Florida for a while, and he just straight up said that he wasn't really getting financing funds or anything, so he's like, I'm going to pack it up, move to Thailand, and he said after a month of being there, he was funded. He was greenlit.
Yeah,
so,
it's crazy.
Awesome.
But thanks to those interviews, because I was trying to figure out what do I do for a Toku topic for this. Well, in all the interviews that I've seen where we'll get into it because finding information on this movie is remarkably difficult compared to everything else because nobody decided to, as much hype as it got in the kaiju community for a while, nobody thought to update wiki pages with information on this movie, because that's at least a good place for me to go to get some general information and then maybe find some of their sources for the wiki pages and then use those. Nope, nothing. So I'm just looking up interviews of the director. Thank you, Jacob, for conducting your own. But he mentioned that the film was inspired by some local legends about a serpent god that lived in the water. And I'm like, what is that? So I started Googling that, and then it's like, oh, the Naga. That seems to be what he never says it by name in any of the interviews. I'm like, I'm guessing that's what he's talking about. That's what I'm rolling with.
Yeah, it's partially based on that. I find it personally interesting that he kind of combined that idea with some other design elements. And he actually got one of the creature designs from Cloverfield. I believe his name is Jordu Shell. That's a very fun story.
Yeah, we'll get into that. Because you may not know the name Jordu Shell, but you are familiar with his work.
Absolutely.
For sure.
But yeah, the information's kind of scarce. I mean, personally, I really enjoyed the lake. If you didn't, that's okay.
Well, we'll get into it. So,
we'll get into that.
Hold off for a second.
But that is... Go ahead.
I was going to say, first, I got to do the entertaining info dump because I am contractually obligated to read it because Jimmy wrote the dang thing. Keep rubbing it in. All right, so we'll be back in a few minutes after I take care of that so everybody is on the same page about this movie. The unnamed mother monster is a determined and protective amphibious creature searching for her egg and her juvenile offspring. She harbors no malice toward humans and only attacks them if they attack her first, and she inflicts damage accidentally while looking for her children. The violent and aggressive unnamed juvenile monster emerges from the titular lake and wanders into a small Thai town, attacking and killing several townspeople. He seems to be looking for a way back to the lake, but his motives are otherwise unexplained. He somehow develops a psychic link with Kang after attacking him, which complicates things. The monster in the egg simply wants to be born, but never hatches on screen. May is the compassionate and stubborn little girl who discovers the creature's egg and takes it for herself, perhaps as an escape from her less than ideal life with her two siblings. Her lazy and rude older brother Kang, while at first a drunk, becomes heroic and self-sacrificial after being mauled by the juvenile creature and discovering he's somehow developed a psychic connection to it. He tries to use that to protect his siblings and the townspeople from the creatures. The passionate and sensible Lynn is May's older sister, who tries to keep both of them in line and later advocates for her brother's safety after his connection to the juvenile creature is discovered. James is the tough and dutiful police officer investigating mysterious, brutal deaths that are later connected to the monsters. His goal is to protect the people and do right by his teenage daughter. Said daughter is the rebellious and troubled Pam, who is acting out, presumably because of her mother's death. This puts her at odds with her father, but after she dies from injuries suffered during a monster attack, James swears vengeance against the creatures. Suat is the overwhelmed but commanding police chief doing everything he can to keep all the townspeople safe during the crisis. Hui and Chen are a pair of Chinese graduate students visiting Thailand for research who later help the police and doctors learn more about the creatures. While the human and kaiju plotlines begin as separate, they quickly intermingle after the first act of the story, with the monsters causing complications for them, and in some cases, ending the subplots. After several attacks by both the mother and juvenile creatures, Kang uses his psychic connection to track the juvenile and lead the police and a posse to his hiding place in an abandoned shack. They flush out the creature with a Molotov cocktail. They then bludgeon the creature with various objects such as clubs and lead pipes to incapacitate it before trapping it with a net. Suat pokes him with a harpoon, confirming that if the creature is injured, Kang feels his pain. An angry crowd pokes the juvenile with rods, demanding that it be killed, but Lin begs them to stop. The mother attacks Wit and a handful of cops, but their fight is off-screen. Presumably, they shot the creature with handguns. She then stalks around the vehicle wherein is Pam, May, and the egg, trying to retrieve the egg. James shoots her with his handgun, but she shrugs it off. Wit then sets up oxygen tanks near the monster as she pins Pam to the ground after retrieving her egg, but she scares off Wit before he can detonate them. James does it instead with his handgun to distract the creature long enough for Pam to crawl away. The mother monster leaves to rescue the juvenile. Pam later dies. Suad prevents the angry mob from killing the juvenile to keep Kang alive. They evacuate the crowd to prevent casualties as the mother creature comes for her offspring. The problem is solved when Kang realizes through his psychic connection that the juvenile wants to be reunited with the larger creature, so he drives the truck housing the former into the mountains, where they all disappear. However, 5 years later, James finds the mother monster hiding in a cave. The script by writer-director Lee Thong-Kam is a relatively simple horror story with an ensemble cast and several subplots that run parallel throughout the film. With a reported budget of 80 million baht, or approximately $2.22 million, this Thai-Chinese co-production is considered a big film in its home country. It was filmed on location and features several crowd scenes with dozens of extras, but where the money can truly be seen on screen is with the giant animatronic for the mother monster, which is 30 feet tall and over 40 feet long. It's highly detailed and expressive, and while enhanced by CGI, it gives the actors something to interact with on set. That being said, a fully CGI version of the monster is used on wide shots for running scenes. This is done more often with the juvenile, although he too has an animatronic and what appears to be a suit in some scenes. The design, which was created by Thong-Kam with Jordu Shell, was inspired by catfish, snakes, and alligators. Overall, the effects are a surprisingly effective throwback to the monster movies of yesteryear. This is a dark and often scary film with a high level of gravitas. While it does have characters offering scientific explanations for the creatures, with its seemingly supernatural monsters and unexplained preternatural phenomena, this trends toward being a fantasy film. Kaiju films are rare in Thailand. There are arguably only 3 others as of this writing, so in that regard, this is an experimental film. Primarily using practical effects could also be seen as experimental in this age of CGI. However, in the larger kaiju genre, this isn't an experimental film because it borrows many story elements seen throughout it. To that end, the film reinforces the style of Gorgo with its premise of a mother monster searching for an abducted offspring, and it reinforces the style of Bong Joon-ho's The Host with its tone and characters, and it reinforces the style of Jurassic Park with its special effects. Interestingly, this cut of the film was intended to entertain a general Thai audience, while another cut by co-director Ah Ching-Zhu was made for a general Chinese audience. It was also marketed to American kaiju fans and horror fans in several publications and events. According to IMDb, the film grossed a worldwide total of $248,778, which is only about a tenth of its budget, after being released August 18, 2022 in Thailand. Thong-Kam says it's gotten a 50-50 reception in Thailand, but American audiences have loved it. It was released stateside by Epic Pictures March 10, 2023, and to streaming platforms 4 days later. Thong-Kam said in an interview that the first cut of this film was 3 hours long. This was because his Chinese co-director, Shu, made a different version that focused more on the Chinese characters. Details on how it differs from Thong-Kam's film couldn't be found, and stranger still, several websites say this version, which is titled From the River, is only 36 minutes long. There are multiple forces at play. Mob rule clashes with civil authority as the townspeople seek to kill the juvenile creature. This also pits the good of the community against Kang's personal livelihood since he feels the creature's pain, which implies he'll die if the monster dies. May's loneliness puts her at odds with her slightly dysfunctional family. This compels her to be possessive of the egg, which makes her the target of its rightful mother, the big creature. Kang's drunkenness also disrupts the family. James's parental authority butts up against Pan's burgeoning independence and her resentment toward her father over the death of her mother. James's zeal for revenge against the mother monster becomes all-consuming and threatens the creature's right to live. Hui and Chen, as Chinese foreigners, find themselves in an unfamiliar place and culture. Tradition and modernism conflict, as seen with the old monk, who is unafraid of the creature unlike everyone else. This also manifests in the nebulous origin of the creatures because it goes unexplained if they are biological or supernatural. The public's right to know what happened is subverted by governmental secrecy. Several themes are in this film. Family, even if it's dysfunctional, is valued by most of the characters, and the monsters, who fight to preserve the family unit or reconcile with members of their families. The police are shown to be authoritative and dutiful. Hui and Chen put aside their ethnic differences to help local doctors figure out how the creatures work and help the creatures' victims. Vengeance is implicitly frowned upon, and James eventually learns to let go of his grudge against the creatures. Kang seemingly makes the ultimate sacrifice by leading the monsters away from the town. The Thai government cover-up is presented as negative. James ponders whether humans are actually the monsters because of how cruelly they treated the creatures, who simply wandered into the wrong place at the wrong time and/or wanted to be reunited with each other. Now that we've gotten that out of the way and fulfilled my contractual obligations, let's get into some Toku Talk on this interesting little film. All right, Jacob, now let's get into it. So you like the lake. I figured that out because I read your review and you mentioned it in your interview with Lee that you enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah, I dug the film. I thought it was good. I'm not saying it's like on the levels of some of the highest highs in the entire kaiju franchise, but I really enjoyed my screening of it. Mm-hmm. I did get to see it early, and that didn't affect my opinion whatsoever. So, just putting that out there.
Yeah, were you familiar with the hype for it? Because, like I said, within the kaiju community, it was getting hyped hard, especially at G-Fest. Like, they were playing the trailer for this every chance they could get at G. I think it was G. I do think it was G-Fest 2022, if I remember correctly, because I think it was the first one back.
Honestly, no. I was sent some information, news on it getting a United States release. I watched the trailer and I was like, this looks pretty cool. Mm-hmm. Let's cover it. Let's cover it for the site. Mm-hmm. And then I said, cool, we'll promote it. We'll push it out there because it looks pretty awesome and it's something different from a totally different country. And then I got to see it and I enjoyed it. But I mean, I'm an easy sell on these movies too. Mm-hmm. I think especially if it has a giant animatronic practical effect.
Yeah.
Like, at least they did that, you know.
Yeah. That was the big talking point. That was the big draw, you know, that they were making sure in every article that was being written about this, they were making sure to bring up that, oh yeah, we got lots of practical effects in this. And that is true. I think it's at least, I don't know, but it's about 60% practical because it's not entirely practical. There is some CGI in this still.
Yeah, mostly the little guy, I think. Mostly the little guy running around on all fours and stuff.
Yeah, because there's 2 creatures in this, arguably 3, because there's an egg. And in a little bit of a surprising move, I have to admit, the egg doesn't hatch. Because we're going full spoilers. Because obviously we're going full spoilers with this, you know. But the egg doesn't hatch. I thought it was going to hatch at some point. I even thought initially because I've watched this movie twice now. The first time I watched it, I honestly thought that the smaller one had been in the egg and he just grew really fast.
I think the first time I saw it, I was in that same boat. I was like, did that egg hatch? And then the egg shows up later, and I was like, oh, okay, there's 3 of them.
Yeah,
That's
technically.
interesting.
Technically, but
Yeah.
the egg never hatches, which is a little bit surprising because if you're mired in this genre like we are, you know that certain aspects of, and I think you even brought it up. Was it you or another interview that I partook of? You brought up the obvious comparisons to other kaiju movies that have done this. A similar story. Most notably Gorgo and Gappa.
I think that was probably Transmissions or somebody else.
Okay.
I went for more of the films that Lee enjoyed. Like,
Right.
clearly Lee likes Jurassic Park.
Oh, good Lord. We'll get into that because there's an entire sequence in this where I'm like, it's just Jurassic Park. That sounds reductionist, but I'm like, it's like, this is almost shot for shot Jurassic Park. Yeah.
So that's where I kind of went with that. But I mean, there are some other cinematic influences I think that are present there that we will get into in a minute. But Nathan, what are your initial thoughts on this film?
Like I said, one thing that kind of tainted my view of it is the first time that I had seen this movie, it was when I had actually gone on a little trip, I had a little vacation time. I went back to the States to visit some people. I went to go visit my friend Erik in Michigan. And I said, you want to watch this movie with me? And he said, sure. But he was feeling kind of tired. So he's like, I don't want to read subtitles. Okay, we won't read subtitles. So I turned on the dub. So I think I had probably been tainted a little bit by the dub because the dub's okay. But I'm like, I think this was probably better in its original language. So this time around for the episode, I did watch it in its original language and then discovered that the Blu-ray has dub titles.
Uh-oh.
And if there's something that we kaiju fans don't like, it's dub titles.
Oh no!
Because when I was watching it, I'm like, some of these lines sound the same. So just to make sure, I switched it back to English, and the lines were exactly the same for like the 30 seconds that I watched. I'm like, oh, why? Just why? But whatever on that. I do think it's pretty good. I don't think it quite lived up to the hype that they were trying really hard to give it, at least in the kaiju community. So I thought it was a little overhyped, but it is still pretty good. I'll say that. And I did enjoy it more in the original language.
I am baffled by, and we can talk about this later if you want, the ending situation with the extended cut.
I was just saying, did you, I told you, it's like, dude, you need to watch the extended ending. Because I'm like, have you seen the extended ending? And he's like, no, I have. I was like, dude, you need to watch the extended ending. That's a talking point right there.
Right. Oh my gosh.
That's probably the extended. There's not a lot on that Blu-ray. The extended ending is the best thing on the. It's the best special feature, I should say, on the Blu-ray. And it's presented without context. It's just one of those things. It's just on the disc. There's no commentary or introduction. Nothing. It's just there. And I was, we'll have to get into that. So I'm trying to figure out exactly where to start. Cause like I said, there's definitely a lot of influences in this Gorgo Gappa. Like I said, even technically because it was borrowing from Gorgo and Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla 2 with Baby Godzilla. It's basically the same thing. Now, like I said, where it diverges is the baby is never seen because the baby never hatches. Mm-hmm. That's the most subversive thing.
I do want to make a correction. I actually did mention Gappa and Gorgo.
Okay.
I was just say, I pulled it up live in the studio.
Yeah, I was like, I'm pretty sure. See, you caught it instead of Jimmy, because normally Jimmy would be the one who'd be piping in to fact check you live.
I'm on top of you, Jimmy.
Yeah.
What are you saying?
I was going to say, what the heck, Jimmy? Be nice to the guests, okay? I want Jacob to come back. Ugh.
I need to come back for the Beast Below, Jimmy.
The Beast Below? Oh, you just want to be my tie guy? Is that what it is?
Tie guy.
Your tie guy? My tie guy?
I like the food.
Yeah, hey, we'll go get a lunch after the broadcast. How about that?
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
Another one of the influential films, as you saw in our interview, he brings up the host a lot.
he does.
The
He does, and
host
I
seems to be.
it's definitely the second time I watched it. I'm like, I'm seeing the host in this now. But it might also be because the host is fresh in my mind because I just saw it again a few months ago for the podcast. So I'm definitely seeing it.
I think it's there. Like maybe more with the smaller kaiju chasing around people and stuff. And it's interesting to see his perspective too. So seeing how big the host really was over there. I mean, it
Mm-hmm.
was a big deal here. Like I remember seeing the clip of the monster rampage on internet sites and
Mm-hmm.
people going, yeah, that's a cool scene. Check this out. But it
Mm-hmm.
seems like that maybe really made an impact overseas. So
Yeah. Oh,
I
for
don't blame
sure.
them.
For sure. Especially in the more immediate area, I would say over there, because I think it's still one of the highest grossing South Korean movies of all time. Because that thing was just a massive hit. But yeah, the sequence where the smaller monster is introduced definitely feels like the host, except this time it's in a rural environment, and the monster's not trying to eat people because it's not big enough to like have a mouth large enough that can just swallow a person whole. It's more just knocking them over and causing damage that way. But it is targeting somebody in
Mhm.
with something that makes thematic sense, but I'm still trying to wrap my head around how it's supposed to work. Because there's a few things that go unexplained in this movie, which is we have okay, because as Jimmy outlined in the entertaining info dump, we kind of have 3 or 4 plot lines going on in this, focusing on different characters, and they cross over at multiple points. And one of those sets of characters is Kang. I think that's how you're supposed to say it. And is it? No, yeah, it is him. I'm getting them all mixed up in my head because he's an alcoholic and all of that. And he gets attacked by the smaller one in the titular lake, and he gets this massive wound on his shoulder, and then inexplicably he has a empathetic psychic link with the monster for the rest of the movie, which makes, like I said, makes thematic sense, but I don't understand why it happens. Because if he gets hurt, the monster gets hurt, and vice versa. So the implication is in that retroactively in that chase sequence, he's going after Kang.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. And that switches between CGI. There's a fair amount of CGI in that. There's even like at the end of it, it's like, is this a Lion King reference here where he just comes up to the edge of a cliff and he's just like, rah! Man, but I think they use a suit for him too. There's actual suitmation there. Now it's only a few shots, and weirdly enough, the suit gets used more in the deleted extended ending, which is kind of funny.
I don't know why they cut that out.
Yeah, anyway, we'll get to it.
Tied
We will
everything
get to it.
together.
I was going to say, we will get to it. We will get to it. And I do think at the beginning, we do get a few shots of the huge animatronic. Because that's the big draw. The big draw is that massive animatronic.
It's big. It's big.
Yeah, I'm going to look it up here because I found out how big the thing actually was, because it's a big boy. It's a big boy. It's 9 meters tall and 13 meters long. So we're looking at it's around 45, 50 feet tall and about 13. So you're looking at probably, no, excuse me. It's more like 30 feet tall. Say, I don't use metric. It's about 30 feet tall and about 45 feet or so long. It's huge.
Oh man. Yeah, and you see like some of the photos Lee provided, you see it being built and you see people standing it, and it's like below the knee to its foot is as tall as a regular human being, which is absolutely crazy.
Yeah, and they were carting it around on the back of a truck for all of its scenes when they were using it, and they had multiple people operating it, which is probably the most unhost-like thing for it, about it, I should say, because the host was almost entirely CGI with a practical puppet for close-ups. That was it. Lee was going the polar opposite here. It's like, I want to use this as much as possible and CGI as little as possible. I think he did say that they use CGI to enhance things like the eyes. And I think he said the tongue, which fooled me, because when I was watching it, I thought the tongue was practical. But he says the tongue was CGI. And I'm like, well, nice job there, guys.
That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was in the animatronic. That's crazy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but he said in I think it was one of the podcast interviews that I heard. He's like, "Oh yeah, the tongue was CGI." Like, you got to be kidding me. That can't have been CGI all the time. So we have several groups of characters.
We have the father and daughter.
Yeah, the James the cop and his daughter, who's a teenager, and they have a strained relationship. And then we have a pair of Chinese characters, which is going to be a little significant because this had a co-director. This is technically a Thailand-Chinese co-production, but it's definitely got more of a Thai flavor to it. But there is a completely different version of this movie that's more like an expansion / parallel story, because I guess could have swore I read or saw something somewhere where this was originally like 3 hours long, and then they cut it down to what it is now.
I think they did shoot a lot of footage.
Yeah, because there's a Chinese cut that focuses on the two Chinese characters who are like, I wanted to say they're scientists. I don't think they are. I think they're grad students.
Or I think they're just young people or something like that.
Yeah, but because they mentioned that they're going to go to grad school. But there are de facto science characters.
Of course.
Okay. Because Lee mentioned that all of these different characters are representing different approaches to stuff like this. Yeah, the science, the supernatural, and religion, he said.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Which is an interesting way to do it.
Yeah, for sure. And this might be, we get like the divine stuff out of kaiju like Mothra.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe a little bit of folklore with like the Okinawa stuff with King Caesar.
Mm-hmm.
But I think this is one of the major kaiju films where it's very, very spiritual and religious. In all these talks he did about the movie, he says how influential the religion and the spirituality and the culture there really seeped into his movie, that these monsters are kind of thematically religious. And I find that particularly interesting.
Well, like I said, and we'll get into it with the Toku topic, but it was inspired by local legends, serpent gods. They were actually being worshipped by the people there, and he kind of played with the idea about whether or not which is kind of the same thing with Godzilla. If you look at Godzilla 54, what it's a chicken or the egg thing. What came first, the Gojira legends or Gojira? And he wants to kind of say the same thing here. It's so the monster that's in the lake, did it inspire the local legends? Or are they putting the legends on it? Because he doesn't really come out one way or the other, and the movie doesn't come out one way or the other either, which is a very traditional kaiju thing to do.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
And
even the original King Kong, to a certain extent, does that.
It's a staple.
Yeah.
It's a trope.
It's a trope.
Simple as that.
Yeah.
It's a trope.
Exactly. So I would say, since we're on the subject of the monsters and the special effects, which do you think was the most effective for you? Was it the big boy, Or Big Mama?
Yes.
Would it be more accurate to say Big Mama?
Big Mama. Without hesitation, it was the large animatronic.
So Big Mama.
Without question.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
Big Mama. Yeah.
Big Mama.
Big Mama's house too.
Yeah, there you go. That's getting memed. Big Mama's house 2. Give me back my baby. Or Big Mama's house 3, the lake.
No, that whole sequence to me was impressive. And I like the cold opener with the pouring rain and the initial encounter with the animatronic. That was fun.
Yeah, that was something, because unfortunately some kaiju fans, I don't want to say all of them, although there have been some attempts to kind of condition kaiju fans to respond this way, I think, which is, oh no, it's nighttime and rain. That means your effects suck because you're trying to hide things. Maybe those are done for creative reasons, to set mood or something. It's not always to hide bad special effects.
And you had it twice in this movie in 2 different scenes, both involving the creature, and yet tonally they're kind of different. Well, I wouldn't say the opposite. That was my first word I was going to use, but they're quite different. Mm-hmm. I mean, it is a monster rampaging and them dealing with it, but I'd say we'll call it the Jurassic Park scene is very, you have that intensity because of the father and daughter. Are they going to make it out? Is this creature going to freaking eat them, or what's going on here? And then you get the cool shots with like the face right up to the money shot, the trailer shot.
The trailer shot, yeah.
And then I can't remember if it was fire or flares. I'm a little fuzzy today. But something in that sequence amplified the animatronic in the rain like that.
They set up some compressed air tanks in very Jaws-like fashion.
That's right. It was fire. Yeah. It was the air tanks.
Fire. It was the
and
air
that looked
tanks.
dope.
Yeah. Because I looked at it as, if you put it at night, this is a smaller monster. Yeah, the Big Mama is still huge, but it's not large enough to topple a building. So setting it at night, I think, makes it moody, and we're all, it's the classic being scared of the dark sort of a thing. So I don't mind it there. As for the rain and everything, that Lee went on record as saying, it's like, yeah, we had things like rain and fog and all that because we were trying to ground the movie. So again, it's being done for creative reasons, not to hide bad special effects. I'm a little tired of hearing this constant clamor for daylight battles. Calm down.
Monsters come out at night. That's just how it is.
It's just how it is. Also, you do get a daytime rampage with the smaller one.
Yeah, you do.
And it does look pretty good.
But where was I going? I was going to be like, Dracula doesn't come out during the daytime, but then there's a reason. There's a reason why.
There's a reason. Yeah, there's a reason why. He kind of doesn't like the sun, but yeah, I don't know. I'm getting a little tired of that because I'm surprised I haven't heard people rail on this by saying like it does the things that they don't want. Oh no, look at all the rain and particle effects, and it's at night. Blah, it sucks.
But the animatronic looks so cool in the rain. It does. It's incredible. Like, and
it's funny. We're talking about, and we may as well get into it. But the very obvious Jurassic Park scene in this, this just shows you how, I guess, prejudicial, or maybe not prejudicial, but how inconsistent a lot of fans can be. I never hear anybody complain about that Jurassic Park scene when it too is set at night and has lots of rain. Is it just because it's Jurassic Park and it's Steven Spielberg? Not Major Spielberg, but Spielberg.
Yes, I didn't hesitate.
I'm just saying. Check yourself. Right. So anyway, let's talk about that, because both times I watched it, like, this is so Jurassic Park. Like, there are points where it's almost shot for shot the T-Rex encounter from Jurassic Park. it's kind of insane. Like, the creature coming up and looking into the car with one eye, and they got a light on it, and bumping the car to get into it. And we have a little girl. Now the details is that, well, no, it's two kids. It is still two kids. It's two girls, because it's the teenage daughter and the little girl. So it's still two kids. Never mind. It's just that it's two girls. The major difference is that the T-Rex is doing it because it's weirdly hungry and territorial, whereas Big Mama is there because she wants her egg, and the egg is in the car, and she'll be damned if she doesn't get that thing back.
Don't mess with Big Mama.
Yeah, don't mess with Big Mama. Did I officially name this thing? Because it doesn't have a name. I've been toying with other possible names, but I think I just officially named it.
Hello.
Sure, trademark it. Tell the board.
You tell him, Jimmy.
You tell him. Yeah. But yeah, because like I said, that's the big thing. But then we have characters who are trying to distract it with, not with, I think you might have been thinking of Jurassic Park with the flares, because they use flare guns.
Yes, I was.
In Jurassic Park.
I think I was.
But it's still fire. It's still fire-related things. Trying to distract it to save the kids. The whole thing just reeks so much of it. I think the first time I saw it, I wondered if that detracted from it just because of how closely it followed it. I was warmer to it the second time. How did you feel about it?
I just thought it was cool.
Okay. You were much more accepting.
I'm an easy sell. It's cool. It's a big animatronic. Mm-hmm. But I have my own hot takes on Jurassic Park that we won't get into because the episode's not on Jurassic Park.
Oh, no. Yeah, I've already done an episode on Jurassic Park. So
sadly, I just thought it was cool. I was very, very impressed with the animatronic. I can't praise it enough. The design of the kaiju itself, we'll get into later, but yeah, that stuff is really cool. But it is super beat for beat, but I think because the contextual difference is there, I think it just passed over me.
Yeah, and it ends differently because in Jurassic Park, the T-Rex tries to, and probably one of the most harrowing scenes of the entire movie, the T-Rex tries to get at the kids through the sunroof.
Yes.
Whereas in this one, I think it actually just bashes its way through the window to try to get in. And then the kids actually panic and get out of the car. But then, unlike in Jurassic Park, the Big Mama actually goes over and actually pins the teenage daughter down to try to get at her. Yeah, so that's really different. But that's because we never see the monsters eat people. Everyone freaks out and they're worried about that they're going to eat them, but the monsters never eat anybody.
No, I don't recall that at all, which is very, very, I almost want to say typical of kaiju in some movies. Depends on what you watch.
Yeah, Godzilla does not. That is a very strict. That is a very strict rule that Toho has. Godzilla don't eat people, and Takashi Yamazaki said, "Well, I'm going to push that as much as I can. He's going to chomp on people and throw them."
Yeah, loopholes.
Yeah, loopholes. All he has to do is tilt that head a different direction, and I break the rule.
Jimmy knows a thing or two about loopholes.
Oh, yes, he does. I don't need to know because I don't want to have to testify. I might know a really good lawyer, but I still don't want to testify. But before we get into any legal discussions, because we are not a law podcast, even though I've had a lawyer on the show. That was an interesting episode because even he couldn't figure out how the asylum gets away with stuff. Go listen to it. They made a movie called Monster Island.
Was there a film ball in that movie?
Huh?
Was there a film ball in that movie?
No, but the title's also kind of a lie.
Oh, well.
because it's the asylum and that's how it rolls. However, apparently that has been one of the most beneficial episodes because shout out to Edwin Gonzalez, patron and avid listener. He cited that as a source for a paper he wrote in college.
Nice.
I felt like I had finally arrived. I made something that was cited in an academic paper. Dang. Just dang. Anyway, so we have the big Jurassic Park sequence. That might be as obvious an homage as it is. That might be I want to say the centerpiece of the movie. It's probably the most impressive bits of special effects, I would say.
Yeah, for sure.
That's where it's got the most work put into it. And it really shows off the practical puppet, the big practical puppet, the animatronic.
Got all the trailer shots, dude.
Yeah, a lot of the trailer shots are from that one as well. So, since we're on that subject, you mentioned the designer of the creatures. So was it Jordu Shell, right?
Yeah, Jordu Shell. Yep. The designer of the creature was Jordu Shell. You might know him from his work on Cloverfield. He also did some work on The Mist, which is another really great creature feature.
As well as... Lee said alien. I'm guessing he probably means aliens because he also said that he worked on Predator. But I'm like, are we talking like 80s Predator? With Arnold.
Let's see. He was a conceptual creature designer on AVPR.
I'm sorry, Jordu. I'm sorry.
And he was a sculptor on Predator 2.
Predator 2, so the one with Danny Glover, not Arnold Schwarzenegger. Yeah. So you're familiar, and apparently Avatar.
Avatar, yeah. Lead character designer on Avatar. Wow, that's a good gig.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, one of the new highest grossing movie of all time.
And he, right before doing Avatar, he did Dragon Ball Evolution as the lead character.
Are you kidding?
No.
Oh my gosh. What a turnaround from one of the most reviled movies ever to the highest grossing movie ever. Oh my God.
Hey, a job's a job, man.
I get it. Job's a job, but that's just wild. Talk about bipolar.
Because let's dig into this a little bit since we're on the topic. So I got his IMDb up right now. So he did 300, The Mist, AVPR, and then he did some creature work for Chronicles of Narnia, Prince Caspian, Dragon Ball Evolution, and then Avatar. So it's just like
wow, all over the place. So, but apparently, if I'm understanding this correctly, and you can help me out with this as the interviewer. He is apparently friends with Lee. They knew each other, which is how, because Lee went to him and said, "Hey, can you help me make this movie?"
Yeah, he basically shot him an email and said, "Can you design the creature in my movie? Can we fly out and talk about it?" And Jordy was like, "Yeah, sure, you can fly out here. We can chat and go to lunch." So Lee flew to LA and had lunch with Jordy Shell, and Jordy Shell became a creature designer on the lake, which is kind of neat.
Yeah, and Lee said that it actually took about 2 months to design the creature, which is a little bit fast, but that's because he gave Mr. Shell very concrete details about what he wanted, so it expedited the process.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah, because he told him that since this monster is from a lake, he said, model it after creatures that live in lakes. I think he said the three that I saw most often that he cited was a catfish, which you can definitely see the catfish influence in this.
Oh yeah,
especially in the head for both Big Mama and the smaller creature, and as well as snakes and alligators. Those were the three. Those were the three I saw most often. I think sometimes he mentioned frogs, but it was alligator, catfish, and snakes.
So, interesting little side note, because we kind of discussed this earlier. In the interview with me, he says, "I also told him that this monster doesn't really eat people. It just kind of lives there." So perhaps that's in the design. The little one can't really eat anybody. The big one,
not without some dismemberment, but
yeah. The big one, I guess so. I mean, it could unhinge its jaw like a snake, but it doesn't want to do that.
yeah. Oh, I should mention, I should have brought this up sooner. He actually filmed this in his Thai hometown.
I know they filmed it in the Thai countryside. I didn't know that was his hometown.
It's actually his hometown. He said, yeah, Buang Khon.
Right.
Yeah. He said that's it. Right. They said that's where he grew up, which I think it's really cool.
You know what surprised me about the effects, and I might be just kind of all over the place for a second, is the CGI. I thought for sure, because we talked about the Chinese co-production aspect, I thought the CGI would be done there, because there's a lot of monster movies coming out of China with big flashy CG. All of it was done in-house, locally in Thailand, which is pretty unbelievable.
That is pretty unbelievable, because I don't even think the host did that. The host outsourced everything. Now, Bong Joon-ho was heavily involved with it, but it was still outsourced to Weta Workshop. So that would have been New Zealand and to America.
And Lee just went, we're going to do this all in my home.
We're going to do it all ourselves. But actually, speaking of the small one, and I might be thinking of this because I recently rewatched it. And although I don't know if you've seen this yet, but you've been giving the most recent edition of it a little bit of coverage on the Kaiju United website. The Guyver. The little one reminded me of the Zoonoid monsters that were from the Guyver.
Yeah, kinda. And not to get too into off-topicness with Guyver, but the book was my first exposure to Guyver.
Budget Biomorphs.
Was. Yes, yeah, that book. So yeah, my first exposure to the Guyver was Budget Biomorphs. But now that I've seen the Guyver, yeah.
Oh, you've seen it now. Okay.
Yeah, I didn't think of that. That's kind of fun.
Yeah. Like I said, there's a lot of places. Like, I'm looking over my notes right now, and I am pointing back to a bunch of other movies. Like, The Host I mentioned here. I mentioned there's kind of a Lion King sequence with the smaller one. And I even, let's see how sharp you are, Jakey. Okay, fine. I won't say it ever again.
Thank you, Jimmy.
He's watching out for you.
Jimmy said something smart for once.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You know what, Jimmy? Get your finger off the button. We don't need that. All right. There's a sequence in this that reminds me of The Amazing Spider-Man. Do you know which scene I'm talking about?
Oh, when he's climbing the cliffs and stuff?
Nope.
Okay. Oh man. Is it the POV sequences?
Nope.
Oh man, what is it?
I'll give you a hint. The Amazing Spider-Man version of it featured a funny mandatory cameo.
Oh man, I haven't seen The Amazing Spider-Man since.
Oh, you haven't?
No, it's good. You're gonna have to tell me.
You've not seen Amazing Spider-Man at all?
No, since it came out.
Oh, since it came out,
2012.
Okay, remember the sequence with the librarian played by Stan Lee?
Oh yeah.
There's a scene like that in this movie where we have where one of the farmers has got AirPods. Listening to music.
That's right.
And doesn't realize that the smaller one's running around going on a rampage. It's right. It's a moment of dark humor, because that's the thing. In Amazing Spider-Man, it's meant to just be funny because it's Spider-Man fighting the lizard and they crash through the library and the librarian doesn't know what's going on. And the librarian almost gets hit by something because Spider-Man has to web it so he doesn't get hit. Mm-hmm. But in this one, it's supposed to be like this farmer is completely oblivious that people are dying right behind.
I forgot about that scene. That's so funny. I remember now, as I was watching it for the first time, I I had some of that Zoomer humor, and I was like, oh no, he's got the AirPods in. He's got the AirPods in. He can't hear us.
It's not even. But the funny thing is, it's not a young person. It's actually an older person with the AirPods in.
Yeah, but the meme. Oh no, he's got his AirPods in. He can't hear us.
Yeah. No, I'm looking at. So what other connections am I making? So I see Jurassic Park, Gorgo. Yeah, Gappa. Yeah, that's most of the ones that I was. Oh, G98.
That's the one we missed. I was gonna bring that up too.
Yeah, G98 at the end.
The footprints.
With the footprints. You know what? G98 did a lot of things. Most of it not good. But it seems like the part that people, well, I guess G54 technically did it first, but every time I see kaiju footprints, now I always think of G98 when I probably shouldn't. Look what that movie has done to me.
It's a memorable movie, dang it.
I suppose.
It's influencing the next 25 years of kaiju movies.
In some form or another, I suppose. Yeah, I wrote down that the animatronic's mouth is very impressive. I did also note, though, that as good as the animatronic looks, the camera doesn't linger on it for too long, and I wonder if that was by design. If that was either to hide that it's an animatronic, or if it was, if it was done for the sake of maintaining suspense. I'm not sure.
I think it's the latter.
Because I think the animatronic looks good enough that you don't have to worry about it.
Because I've seen some of Lee's other movies. I have not seen Kitty the Killer yet, which is his latest movie that just came out.
Yeah, is that the one? Is that the one that's supposed to? Wait, no, that's not the one where he was talking about it like, oh, it's like Medusa, but in Thailand.
No, that's coming.
The Snake Queen. Yeah, that was the Snake Queen.
Snake Queen. Kitty the Killer's like his Kill Bill.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say, is that the Kill Bill one that he mentioned he was going to do?
Yeah, and I've seen The Maid. And something weird about The Maid that I don't think The Lake does as hardcore, and maybe you disagree with me on this. The Maid goes from a spooky Del Toro-esque ghost movie, and then halfway through, it flips the switch, and it turns into a full-blown slasher movie. It just goes boom, and then it just switches genres on you.
That's crazy. No, I don't think The Lake does that.
I don't think so.
Really.
The Lake maintains
it's pretty consistently a creature feature, at least kaiju adjacent. Well,
yeah,
I guess it would still be kaiju because there is one scene where Big Mama, they switch to CGI and it does kind of knock over some houses, but that's about it. And it rampages through a city block at one point.
What does kaiju mean? It means strange beast. Kaiju means giant strange beast.
Okay, Elijah. Yeah, you go ahead and you correct me like that. That's the most Elijah-ism I've seen that didn't come from Elijah.
But I said it very, very jokingly.
Yeah. Well, actually.
So Big Mama is indeed a kaiju.
Yes.
So
yes. No. Wait, we got to do this right. She is a taiju. Remember? Okay. I killed him. Hey, like I said, there was a featurette on the Blu-ray where it said in the subtitles, taiju. Okay? I am only using the term that they themselves used.
Maybe we should turn this Uber Mager around and go back to Buc-ee's so that I can get a couple.
I'm having such a horrible time. I'm going back to North Korea. But speaking of kind of funny, weird things, like you would see at a gas station, that was the world's worst transition. Some funny little observations that I just saw here in my notes. We have a scene where James drinks soda from a bag. Huh?
Yeah.
Is that a thing in Thailand?
Oh, I should have asked him about that. When I first saw the movie, I was like, what is going on here?
Why is he casually drinking soda from a bag? Is that a thing?
I thought it was because he had like a brown bag or something, and had the
I
bottle
don't.
on the bag
No,
or
it's
something.
literally a bag. It's like, what do Pepsi commercials in Thailand look like? You know, it's a Pepsi bag, Pepsi bag.
Well,
so that gives a whole new meaning. Like if I walk into, I don't know, the Thai version of Buc-ee's, and I say, hey, can you give me a bag of Coke? I mean, this is Bangkok. That we might not get what we think we're gonna get. I'm just saying.
it's a family show, Nate. Come on.
We talk
Jimmy, remind this man that this is a family show.
Fine. We've talked about drugs before on this show. Drugs are like that. Ha ha! I have placated him with riff tracks.
But no, I that is a bit perplexing. I don't have an explanation for that. Let's just do what I say when anything else like that happens in kaiju films. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. Just remind yourself it's just a show. You really should relax. Even if it's raining and you still see blue sky in the background. Oops. Sorry, that was another note I saw here, and I'm like, oh, I should bring it up because we talked about the rain.
Hey man, I've had it rain in my hometown while it was sunny out, so you know.
Yeah, I know. I'm from Indiana. We have weird weather. I've seen it happen too. I'm just bringing it up. But you know what's another weird thing that was in this? You know, you and I are both at the age where it's like we kind of remember this, but it's still a little anachronistic. Oh my word, they have a phone booth.
Nate, can you tell people that might not know what a phone booth is?
Well, if you watch this movie, if anybody ever watches Doctor Who, you see something that people say is a phone booth, but that's not a phone booth, technically. But a better comparison would probably actually be Bill and Ted, because they did have a phone booth that was a time machine. Now, a phone booth is I don't know how to describe it. It's like a miniature room, I guess you could say.
It's a booth with a phone in it.
Yeah, it's a booth with a phone in it. And then you go inside, you close the door, you throw in some change, you dial a number, and you can talk to somebody for 5 minutes. They used to be all over the place before the days of cell phones. Cell phones killed the phone booth. Also, Superman used to change clothes in a phone booth.
Yeah. Now he just does it out in the open.
He's just like, dang it, I don't have a phone booth.
Now
he just goes and finds a photo booth, in there, and just hopes the camera doesn't get triggered. It changes in there. We're getting all over the place. We are definitely getting all over the place. So you're gonna see Godzilla 54. What are some other interesting notes that I threw down here? All right, let's actually talk. We've talked a lot about the effects and the direction, the editing. We should talk about the characters a little bit more, because I know for Lee, the characters were really important for him. So I would definitely say probably the most important character. Well, is it James or the little girl, you think? Because for me, James and the little girl are the most important ones. I'd say it's both, but I would probably push James up just a tad. The little girl ignites the plot, is the force that gets the ball rolling, but I think James takes that over a little bit. Yeah, because she tries to mother the egg because she doesn't like Kang. Because she's just kind of stuck with a lousy guardian that she knows is just an alcoholic, and he's not really good for anything. Because that's his arc, is he's trying to basically ends up trying to find redemption. Because we get the impression he's a good guy, because he does jump into the water to save her from the little one, and then he pays the price for it. So we know he's a good guy. He's just an alcoholic, which I don't know how that sounds a little oxymoronic, but you know what I'm getting at.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. But James, and this for me was probably the most interesting angle on this, because I can't really think of another kaiju movie that really leaned into this, because especially early on, because James is a cop and he's investigating all of these mysterious, gruesome deaths that we find out are connected to the monsters. So for a little while at the start, it's a police procedural to a certain extent.
Yeah, in a way it is. So is that the genre switch that Lee is pulling off?
I wouldn't say so, because the whole movie wasn't like that. It was just the James scenes early on were a little bit more like a police procedural. And then his part of it shifted away from police procedural into a little bit more action movie territory. So maybe in that regard, but he's investigating all of these things. So that's next to the little girl. She's the instigator, but he's the one who probably, I think, honestly has the most pertinent story to what's going on. And then we get the subplot within his storyline where we find out he has an estranged daughter, doesn't really care for him all that much. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but he's a widower, right? His wife had died.
Yes, I believe so. I think he's by himself.
Yeah, and the daughter's just being an angry, angsty teenager because that's what she does. So there's that wedge between them, because Lee said the big central theme of this movie is connection. Everybody is trying to connect in some form or another. And I noticed that. I also noticed a related theme of children in this, because you have the little girl, you have the teenage daughter, and you have Big Mama trying to find her kids. Because I think the implication is the smaller one is another one of her offspring. It's just an older offspring. But both of them are trying to find the egg too, especially Big Mama.
Yes. The big theme I got out of it was two things. One was legend versus fact, which you kind of touched upon with what came first.
Yes.
Another part of that is folklore.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of our folklore and mythology, like, is it real?
Mm-hmm.
Or has it just been exaggerated over the years? What happens when your folklore shows up in the town?
Mm-hmm.
And then the other part of that is the whole, what I found particularly interesting, there's a little tidbit towards the end where they covered it up. The whole situation was covered up.
And I gotta admit, it's one of the lousiest cover-ups I've ever seen. Because what did they blame it on? What did they say it was? I'm gonna check my notes. What did they say it was? I don't even say. I think they blamed it on an animal attack, but I'm like, that is one of the lamest excuses I've ever heard.
That animal has some really big footprints.
Yeah, I can't remember if they said it was like a bear. I think did they say it was a bear? I don't remember.
I can't remember.
I don't remember. I just remember things like there's no freaking way, because everybody who was in that town knows it wasn't.
Yeah, it was just. Yeah, but the government said,
Yeah, and it's so rural. That was, I think I saw Lee brought that up, because it's so rural that they think they can just get away with it.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's in the northern boony part of Thailand, so they think they can get away with it. But so we have all these characters who are trying to connect, and there's a disconnect between them. James is estranged from his daughter, and Kang is an alcoholic, so he ends up being very distant. And Big Mama has had her egg taken away from her, so she's trying to get it back. It's a very classic and easy to understand motivation for a kaiju. I want my baby back.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get my baby back. So, it's the whole mama bear thing. You never come between a mama bear and its cub, and you don't come between a kaiju and its baby either, as we see here.
You don't come between me and my annual viewing of Big Mama's House 2.
Except now the lake is forever going to be Big Mama's House 3 to you.
Yeah, that's the new title.
That's the new title. Yeah. So I will admit, out of all of the human storylines that we have in here, I do think James is the most interesting. He ends up being the most proactive. He does the most. He's the most involved. The Chinese characters are not in it all that much, and their contributions are more just like, oh, we figured out what you can do to deal with this thing, maybe. Or, oh, wait, we we figured out some of the weirdness, guys.
Exposition.
Where are the expositors?
There you go.
We are the expositors. And the little girl actually disappears for a little while.
She does,
in the movie. And then she comes back for really important sequences like the Jurassic Park scene, that we were talking about. What is her name? Of course. I should. Okay, if we're going to bring it up.
Of course.
Yeah, there you go.
Of course.
I'll do it one more time because I thought I caught it. I cut it off. But I'm trying to remember what. Oh, May. That is her name. The little girl's name is May.
Yes.
May. And because we have to talk about May because May is in the extended ending where things get weird.
Yeah.
Really weird. And what's crazy is some scenes from the extended ending are in the promotional materials.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we'll get to that. But I did think James was the most interesting, and particularly when you get to about the halfway point of the movie, going all the way to the end, some crazy things start happening to poor James. Namely, his daughter dies, and it wrecks him.
Yeah.
Yeah, because then it turns into
surprised when it happened.
Yeah, because then it turns into a little bit of a Captain Ahab situation where he's like, I'm gonna kill the monster, kill my daughter. Which is kind of funny because you have the parent killing another parent's child to get her child back.
So we're all just killing each. I think they bring up a commentary on that.
Yeah, because that's I should have brought this up because that's the interesting thing. This movie is actually bookended by narration. And you don't find out until the end that the narrator is actually James. And the narration almost sounds like something you would hear in a fantasy novel talking about good and evil, light and darkness, and how, we're not that different than the monsters, and we're always trying to hurt each other and all this sort of stuff. And and it's setting the stage, and then you watch the movie and it's the classic, who's the real monster sort of trope, and the movie does play around with that because everyone is just assuming that the monsters are killers and they're dangerous. Hello again, kaiju lovers, and I say again because apparently our mascots slipped in, Goji-kun and Brokong, and they got back up to their gremlin-y ways. So we unfortunately lost signal there for a hot second. Thank you, Jimmy, for stuffing them into... Where'd you put them again? Okay, but make sure you don't plug the microwave back in, okay? I don't need the little guys to, to explode, all right? I don't want to clean up the mess. Sorry about that. So anyway, since we spent the last couple of minutes trying to clean up their mess, where's Ultramite? Will you get Ultramite over here to deal with them? Already sent the email. Good. All right. Stowaways. Anyway, we were talking about, I believe, the narration and how it bookends the movie.
Yes, yeah, that's right. As you said before we cut out, it was James doing the narration. We don't find that out until the end of the movie.
Yeah.
But it's kind of just ties everything together. It kind of goes into how we're no different than the monsters that inhabit our world.
Yeah.
We're all trying to hurt each other.
I was bringing that because that's a bit of a classic kaiju trope, or just kind of a monster story trope. And so who's the real monster?
Yeah.
It can be a little overplayed. Some people do think it's a little overplayed, but I think it works.
I think it works for this movie quite because you kind of see it. Like they show it. They don't just go, oh, we shouldn't hurt each other, and then it just, a monster knocks over a building.
Yeah, exactly. And like I said, you have Kang. I would say next in line is probably Kang, because Kang actually goes through an entire arc in this. However, his fate is left really ambiguous, because we don't know what becomes of him. Because by the end of it, and this is, in retrospect, is kind of interesting, because since we talked about how he's an alcoholic, and he's the one who ends up with the empathetic connection to the smaller one, and then he has who is it? I think it's his sister.
Something like that.
Yeah, I could be completely wrong on that. You can correct me in your blog, Jimmy. But she is trying to keep everybody from killing the smaller monster to protect him with the inexplicable psychic connection, because that never gets explained. And what ends up happening, because he decides that he's going to do something worthwhile finally with his life. So he gets into a truck with the smaller one caught in a net, because they try capturing the thing with a net and they're going to try to kill it. Well, it's in the truck. He gets in the truck and starts driving away to get Big Mama to follow. And he just goes off down the road into the wilderness, fate unknown.
He's going to go hang out with the creatures. He's just going to go live with them.
I guess. Because theoretically, I mean, if the idea is that if either one of them dies, then they both die, which is definitely contradicted in the extended ending, because we'll get to. But the actual ending, we don't know. So I don't know. I'm not exactly sure what's going on there.
I don't know, dude.
But it's definitely the most obvious character arc in the entire movie. But and then like
definitely,
I said, and then like I said, the Chinese characters, not a lot comes from them with this. They're a little bit of exposition, maybe one or two plot points, and that's about it. One interesting scene, I will admit, and this was something that Kaiju Transmissions brought up to Lee. Wasn't entirely happy with his answer, but it was still interesting, which is we have a moment where Big Mama comes face to face with a Buddhist priest. Buddhist monk.
I remember them asking about that.
Yeah.
I recall that question.
Yeah, and they asked him, what was the significance of that? And he said that it was, if I remember correctly, the way he explained it was his way of acknowledging how the older generations remember the old stories. And that's why Big Mama left him alone, because he remembered. That was the implication. It was part of that spirituality aspect that he was trying to get at.
Yeah. Perhaps remembered isn't the perfect verbiage for a solid answer that makes sense, but I see where he's coming from.
He knows the old stories. I think that might be a better way to
maybe he knows what he knows what the creature is. Mm-hmm. He knows what it's doing. He knows what it comes. I don't know. He knows the lore.
Yeah.
He knows Jimmy.
But he knows Jimmy. Yes, we know there's too much Jimmy lore to go over. But the other interesting thing, going back to that, I did observe that there is a point in the movie where we have people holding up in a church. It's described as a church. Now, I don't know if that was a fluke of the translation, but still, they're taking refuge in a spiritual place, which is kind of interesting.
It was a church. I'm pretty sure it was a church.
Mm-hmm. Which did inspire me to look that up, because I found out, interestingly, Christianity is surprisingly common in South Korea, but it's incredibly rare in Japan, and it's only slightly less rare in Thailand from what I looked up. It's maybe 1.5% of the population. Mostly in the north, interestingly enough. It's 17%. It's 1.5%, 2% overall, but it's 17% in the north, which is where this movie takes place.
So, could be totally accurate. That makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, another funny little detail is this movie mostly takes place in 2017 for some odd reason. And when Lee was asked why he did that, he said, it's because that's when we started making the movie.
Okay.
Yeah, because then it jumps ahead 5 years toward the end.
Yes, for the theatrical cut, I think it just goes 5 years later and.
Here's the conspiracy. Okay, it wasn't a bear attack. I got it wrong. I found the note. It's actually way more meta than that. They said they were filming a movie.
That's right. Yeah. Those are some dope special effects, bro.
Yeah, seriously. It's like I said, it's weirdly meta. And one of the lines from the ending narration from James is, "What's more dreadful than the monster is the lie."
Yeah. That sounds like some Watergate kind of stuff.
It kind of does. It's Big Mama Gate. Is that what?
Oh!
Lake Gate. Yeah.
Oh no.
And you're like, I'm going back to North Korea. Where's that squirrel? Fly me back.
Where's that Bucky?
Where's that Bucky? Yeah. Okay. Oh yeah, and I wrote right here, so the film tries hard to have drama by having characters, usually someone important to someone else, be injured by the monster or in some cases die. That's a good tactic to use, I would say. Which is something we did kind of talk about. I'm looking over some of my notes to make sure we get to some stuff. Okay. All right. As usual, I never get to go over all of my notes because I always take too many. But we need to talk about the ending. And that's how we'll end our film discussion on the ending, because the theatrical ending is a little strange and a little abrupt, and I don't exactly get what happens, because it just jumps ahead, and it's like for like 30 seconds. It jumps ahead 5 years, and we see James in a cave looking at a cave painting. And which, by the way, I do want to bring up the soundtrack in this is actually pretty good. It's nicely atmospheric, and it's pretty memorable. It's pretty intense and suspenseful at points. It's actually better than a lot of soundtracks that we've been getting for a while.
Yeah, the composer Bruno Brugnano. I am so bad with these pronunciations, but like I said, he's a frequent flyer on Lee's movies. He did The Lake, he did The Maid, he just did Kitty the Killer. There's a movie that Lee was attached to but didn't direct called Night of the Killer Bears, which is like a teddy bear slasher movie.
A teddy bear slasher movie. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow. Teddy bear slasher movie. Now there's a pitch, and the only people who would want it would probably be Full Moon.
Yeah, but he did the music for that. So
Okay, but anyway,
anything Lee is like producing or directing, it seems like he's on.
Okay, but anyway, so
music straight.
So anyway, he's in the cave, and some of the narration is going on. He turns around from the cave painting, and the monster, Big Mama, comes up behind him, and then their eyes meet, and the movie ends. And I'm like, what even was that?
He found it. He went looking for it, and he found it.
Okay. And I'm like, what was the point and significance of that? Well, then you watch the extended ending on the Blu-ray, and it gets weird.
Why don't you spoil it for the audience if they haven't seen it? Because I think a lot of people watched that theatrical cut. Because I mean, I even admitted that was the first cut I watched.
Yeah, but you did throw in your Blu-ray and watch the extended ending, right?
Yeah, I did when we talked. It was
It was
something else.
It was something else, because it does the 5-year time jump again. This is, I think, 10 or 12 minutes long, okay? This is a lot of material. And it starts off with James talking to a Buddhist monk, and they go over a bunch of thematic stuff, and he tells him basically, it's like, hey, you've been running around for 5 years in a rage, and it's going to eat you up, and, all that sort of thing, all the usual, terrible revenge things, all that sort of stuff. But we also see May, who appears to I'm guessing she's probably like a freshman in high school now. And I think it's a different actress too. So it's a different actress because she's a little older. And we see her talking and interacting with the monsters and actually embracing them, kind of hugging them. And she brings them goats, presumably to eat. And
one more Jurassic Park connection.
Yeah, there you go. And as James is talking to the monk, we see what is presumably a flashback where he finds May with the creatures. And the monk asks him, well, what did you see? And he said, I saw hope, which is kind of a weird line. And then we get a whole other monster attack where James confronts teenage May. And then the little one goes after him and tries to eat his face. And it's cutting between CGI and an actual suit. I mentioned before, like, it seemed like the suit was used more for this than it was in the final movie, other than like when it's in a net or in a cage and a few other shots. And we're starting to see that apparently May, at this point, has a connection with the monsters, kind of like how Kang did. At least to some sort of extent, but it's not really fully explained, at least at this point. And then James nearly kills the juvenile, but May comes between him and the juvenile, and he just decides not to kill it. Because this is supposed to be the fulfillment of kind of like his arc that he had where he wants to avenge his daughter. And that's when they start getting in more into the whole thing of like who's the real monster and all that sort of stuff. And the monk flat out tells him the monster you really face is the one inside of you, and you must defeat that to find peace. So there's all this thematic development that's happening in this ending. And we even hear his daughter's voice really briefly at one point. But then we get to the weirdest part of the ending. Okay? I don't understand this. And this was a part that was actually in some of the promotional material. I don't understand this. We see May in a bathroom. And we're cutting intermittently between this and her leading him to the mountains and then him going into the cave. And we do get the clip that's actually in the final film of him finding the cave painting and coming face to face with Big Mama. Okay? But we also see her coughing like she's choking on something into the sink. And you don't think much of it for a little while until you notice that they keep focusing on this. And then the final shot of May is she's looking into the sink and there are squirming worms in the drain. The implication being she puked these things up. And then we go back to what we saw in the final movie. I am sitting here going like, okay, this should have been first off, it should have been in the movie because this does have more emotional payoff and thematic payoff, and we get to see more of the effects. I don't understand what the worm thing is.
Don't worry about it.
I am so confused. Like, there's already things in this that don't entirely make sense. What are these? I'm just like, what is this?
I don't know, man.
Is this how is this supposed to be like, this is what happens if the monsters attack somebody? That's how they have a psychic connection. They put little worm things inside of people. And May finally decided I don't need them anymore and puked them up. So now her connection is severed.
Man, that might be it. I didn't think about that.
Yeah, or if you really want to get weird, is that like, well, that doesn't make any sense because of the egg, because there's an actual egg. Unless this thing's like a xenomorph and it pops out of the egg and gestates inside of a host or something weird. I don't know.
That would be crazy. That'd be real crazy.
It would be really crazy because we never see what the fate of the egg is, even in this ending. We never see the egg again. So we don't know what this thing's life cycle is like.
Yeah.
It's really confusing. I don't know what to make of it. What are your thoughts on
it? I think that the interpretation that maybe that's I mean, you could go literal since she's spending so much time with them. She's puking up worms and stuff because that's what they're eating out there in the wild. But also they're eating goats, so that doesn't make any sense. I'm gonna go with something a little more supernatural. It might be that's how she's severing the tie.
Mm-hmm.
She's puking up worms and stuff. And usually that happens in like possession horror movies and stuff, like some weird like puking up worms and locusts and whatnot.
Yeah.
So perhaps that's, I don't know. I'm going to reach a little bit and say that might be the severing ties. That's the only thing I can possibly think of. I think the cave paintings is a lot more literal.
Mm-hmm.
He went to go find them. He's going to make peace with this creature and not use all his hateful energy to go exterminate it Captain Ahab style. So
yeah,
that one makes a little more sense. And now he knows, now he's kind of in the same spot as the monk from earlier in the film. He knows the lore, he knows the legend, he knows what these things really are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because Lee did say he has ideas for sequels. I even saw,
yes.
Well, I think I one of the interviews that I looked at even said that, oh, I think it was yours. You were talking about having James ride the monster like a cowboy.
Yes. Yeah, he was talking about like Dino Riders and stuff.
Dino Riders. Oh, Dino Riders. We're one of only a few people who knows what Dino Riders is.
Proud of it. Yeah, but he also, interestingly, in that same interview, I tried to press him a little more on the mythology influences, and he said, there's some specific real-world mythology I want to incorporate, but I'm not going to tell you because I want to do it in a sequel, if that happens.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, he's still a little busy with other movies, so I don't know. Maybe he'll come back to it. But speaking of mythology and inspirations, I think it's time for the Toku topic. After a word from our quote-unquote sponsor, because it's a podcast ad and most likely my other podcast. Have fun. Well, there go the final episodes of Power Trip and Henshin Men. Nice try blowing them up, Rito and Junior. Anyway, I'm gonna miss these podcasts.
Not as much as me.
Or me.
Huh? Chris? Jake? What the heck shit are you doing here?
To tell you, you cannot stop podcasting about Tokusatsu.
But I'm still doing the Monster Island Film Vault.
No. We want more Henshin heroes, especially with more getting released outside of Japan.
You're right, guys. We need Henshin power now! That's right, listeners. Henshin Men and the Power Trip are combining like Zords to create
Henshin Power V3.
Where three friends have 3 minutes to talk about Tokusatsu.
We'll pick up where those other shows left off with episode-by-episode coverage of Henshin Hero Television.
But just like Ultraman, we'll only have 3 minutes to discuss each TV episode.
Which means we'll be talking about 5 to 10 TV episodes on each of our podcast episodes.
Whether the series is live action or animated, if it has a transforming superhero and wasn't covered in the other 2 shows, it's eligible for this new podcast.
The heroes of the internet will be happy to know Henshin Men's trademark awards for things like the best stunt or fight scene and craziest moments are returning, with 2 new awards being added.
And the listeners with attitude will love that the Power Trip's popular thematic discussion and infamous Rant Master will also carry over.
So join us Ultraman Day, July 10th, 2024, and then every first and third Wednesday each month for a brand new Tokusatsu journey. You can even vote on which series we cover first.
It's Morphin' Time.
It'll be Henshin credible.
Watch your favorite podcatcher. All right, Jacob, I am going to do my best to get through this because there was a shocking amount of information that I could have brought up. So everyone, if you are curious about diving into this subject even further, please do reference the show notes on the MIFV website to get my list of sources so you could read more about it. but I'm going to be talking about the Naga. And I'll get into a little bit of what that means, but I do want to start with actually a quotation from Lee from your interview, Jacob.
Oh, what's the quote? Cool.
All right, he said, quote, "In Thailand, especially the northern part, is a place called Buang Kon. It's the countryside. Those towering mountains and the rocks where the smaller monster runs to in the movie are found there. That area is like the Grand Canyon for our country. So over there, they believe in like a big giant serpent god. So that's what they pray directly to. They believe religiously that the creature lived there in the water for a long time, and eventually the cave's there. We are not trying to say the monster is that creature, but I'm trying to say there's a lot of stuff going on in that province that we don't know about." End quote. So I saw that, and I'm like, okay, I want to see if I can figure out what that is. And near as I can tell, as I mentioned earlier, it is the Naga. So Naga is actually Sanskrit, which is Indian. And it means snake or serpent, or one source I looked at said a more literal translation would be cobra. So these are revered as serpentine guardian entities, and they have a prominent role in stories and architectural elements of Buddhism in Thailand. Their origins actually, near as most people can tell, actually go back to India and not to Thailand. It's just that as Buddhism kept expanding, stories of the Naga would get integrated into Buddhism, and then that was carried into Thailand when Buddhism got there. Though some say that the Naga were being worshipped in Thailand before Buddhism got there. So it depends on who you talk to. Again, it's kind of a chicken or the egg sort of a thing. That they already had stories about these serpent gods or guardians, and then when the stories of the Naga came over, they got integrated together. It's just how folklore works. So in Thailand, the Naga are usually called the Phayanak. I hope I said that right, which means Lord of Naga, which is derived from the word Mon, which means high nobility. From what I can tell, the Naga are particularly important in Thailand compared to other countries where they are known. And Thailand, for anybody who would like to know, they actually practice their own brand or flavor, I guess, of Buddhism that's called Theravada Buddhism. I hope I said that correctly. So, like I said, they think that it started in India, then moved through Myanmar or Burma, and then into Thailand. Now, Theravada Buddhism actually has its roots in Hinduism, which is kind of interesting. So it's a little bit of a melding of the two, because they have some overlapping doctrines and dogmas. But the interpretation of the Naga in Thailand, from what I read, is taken from what's called the Makara, which resemble... I wanted to highlight this because we were talking about the design influences on Big Mama and her kids in this movie, but the Makara resembles a crocodile. So there's a lot of stories and stuff that I'm going to be presenting that connect to the Naga in Thailand. One really important thing that should be mentioned, I will say, is that it's actually believed that the Mekong River in Thailand was created by two Naga kings.
I was just about to say that. That was one of the ones I wanted to bring up.
Yeah.
I thought, one real quick before you keep going, I did read that the Naga and Thai play a role in their mythology with rain control. So
yes.
That's why there's so much rain throughout the film, maybe?
Yeah, because
a pretty easy connection to make.
Yes, they are very closely associated with water. Because a lot of them live in rivers, and they control the rainfall and things like that. Yeah, I'll be getting into that. So
nice.
I mentioned the Naga have a lot of common motifs in Hinduism and Buddhism and some other indigenous religions, as I mentioned. So interestingly, in Thai folklore, Naga are said to actually live in an underworld there's a lot of different developments with them, but initially they're believed to live in an underworld, which in Thai, and I'm probably going to butcher this, is called Muang Badan. It's similar to the Indian legends, where the underworld is submerged underwater and it's split into 7 sections. Interestingly, it is not hell as Christians would understand it. It's actually, there's another underworld under the underworld, for what I read, that's actually closer to what we would call hell.
So the Naga are just pretty much hanging out in like the what is like purgatory?
Not purgatory. It's more like hell's roof. I don't know. that was pretty terrible.
The main lobby.
Yeah, the main lobby. Yeah. But here's a quick quotation from one of my sources. Quote, within Hinduism, Nagas find their roots in the Vedas. Again, I hope I said that right. Particularly the Rig Veda, which is among the oldest religious scriptures in the world. In the Rig Veda's hymn dedicated to Apam Napat, there are references to serpent-like deities that were capable of assuming human form. That's another common motif with the Naga, is shape-shifting. These early depictions hinted at the semi-divine nature of Nagas, as they were often referred to as protective beings of water sources that can generate life-giving rain during droughts, end quote.
Water gods. They're water vendors.
Yeah, water vendors. There you go. So I found a few examples of some Naga legends and stories. I'm not going to go through all of them for the sake of time, but I did want to highlight a few of them. So in one story, it's a Hindu epic called again, I'm probably going to butcher this, the Mahabharata? The Mahabharata, which was written in the 3rd century BC. And it talks about interactions between humans and Nagas. Quote, one of the most well-known characters in the text is Ulupi, a Naga princess who fell in love and married the Kuru prince Aryuna. Furthermore, the Mahabharata depicted Nagas as beings with complex personalities and motivations, known to possess human-like qualities, including emotions, intelligence, and even royal lineages. End quote. Which is something I'll get into. Which is something I'll get into a little bit later, because there are, and you'll get some hints at it as I go through some of these stories. But there are 2 different schools of thought in the depictions of the Naga, which I'll get into a little later. And then in another story that I found, quote, in the context of Buddhism, the earliest appearances of Nagas can be traced back to the Pali Canon, P-A-L-I, Pali, the foundational scriptures of Theravada Buddhism. Within the canon, the references to Nagas are primarily found in the Jataka stories, which are part of the Kudaka Nikaya. One notable Jataka story featuring Nagas is the, oh my gosh, these names. Mahasutasoma Jataka. My apologies to all of my Thai listeners. In this tale, the Buddha-to-be is born as Prince Sutasoma. During a meditative retreat in the forest, a great storm arose, and the Naga king Muchalinda emerged. It looks like Mucha Linda emerged from his realm to protect Sutasoma. The Naga king coiled his body around the meditating prince and extended his hood, because again, Naga more literally means cobra, as a shelter, shielding him from the elements, end quote. So he's a big snake, and he wraps himself around the Buddha, basically, opens up his hood and protects him. So it's basically a kaiju umbrella.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
That's kind of wicked.
Yeah.
As you were describing it, I was thinking the world serpent, but it wasn't quite that. I was like,
that's from Norse mythology.
That's Norse mythology, yeah. But there's a lot of like not to get too off topic. There's so many I guess I don't know what the right word here is. Similarities in mythologies.
Parallel development.
Yeah.
Parallel development.
Yeah, Greek and Roman.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Greek and Roman gods are the same.
Well, that's because the Romans
That's
because the Romans co-opted them. But
There's some context missing there.
Yeah, I know, but still. All right, so and then another one that I found that I thought was interesting, and there's some other ones that I'll bring up later. These were just all from the same source that I was looking at, or most of them were from the same source. Quote, an oral tale taken from, this is why I brought this one up, Northeast Thailand, because the movie takes place in the north, remember, also speaks of the Naga as the embodiment of Upakut, I hope I said that right, a deity who brings and protects against evil. In this tale, the Naga is the son of a mermaid and Buddha. How's that for crazy? Perhaps pointing towards the Naga's origins as a water serpent. Another oral tale, also from Northeast Thailand, portrays a Naga as being devout, transforming himself into a human being as he wishes to be ordained as a monk, explaining why newly ordained monks were called Nok. End quote.
Interesting.
Yeah. So what you get with those stories that I shared is, like I said, there's two different depictions of the Naga. You have the Buddhist myths and the local tales. That's how I described it. The difference is that in one, the Naga are shown as these enlightened beings, or they're being seeking enlightenment, whereas in, we'll say, the local tales, they're more anthropomorphic, they're more down to earth, they're capable of love and anger and destructive wrath, actual human emotion. But here's another crazy thing. But here's another crazy thing for you. According to one source I looked at, there is a story that says the Naga are the ancestors of the human race.
So, oh man, that kind of makes the connection between the creatures and the humans in this film. Interesting.
So this is a legend from the Tai Lu people, who are, according to this source, a quote ethnic group of China, Laos, Thailand, Burma, and Vietnam, and this was a water serpent. So, according to the story, quote, while fishing, this is how the story goes, quote, while fishing in the Mekong River near her home in southern Yunnan, a young woman named Nong Sa touched what she believed to be a log floating in the water. Later, she gave birth, this is wild, she gave birth to 10 baby boys, of which a Naga king claimed to be his sons. Yeah. Okay. We're not done. Frightened.
All right, Zeus, chill out.
Yeah. This is like, I don't know if this is Jerry Springer or Maury Povich. Yes, I know it's a dated reference. Anyway, we're moving on. Frightened. Continuing the quotation from my source. Frightened, Nong Sa tried to escape with the children, but her youngest son failed to escape. Thus, the Naga king found the boy and bathed him in the Mekong River. When he grew up, the boy was appointed as the leader of his tribe, and their descendants became what is now known as the Thais, the ancestors of the Thai and Laotian people. End quote.
That's one hell of a creation myth.
Yes, it is. That is wild.
He's like, I'm gonna baptize you, and now you are the humans.
It's just wild. Wild. But here's another thing. It's also kind of crazy. There are some who believe that...
Because you can see the connections as the stores.
Yes.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, but here's another one
I think
for
we
you.
talked over each other.
Yeah, that's fine. But there are also some who believe that if you say, or in any way use the name of a Naga, that is offensive to them. And it's not allowed.
Nathan, You don't get banned from another country, okay?
That's just what some people believe. I'm just saying that's just what some people believe. So this is why, rather than mentioning the name of Nagas, the majority of river names around like the Chiang Saen Basin are actually named after their characteristics or actions related to the Naga. For example, you have like the Kam, however you say it, which means gold. Rock, R-A-K, which means to drag. And Kok, K-O-K, which means to kill. It's a little bit similar in the Hebrew religion. So, Orthodox Jews, that's why they don't like saying the name of God. Because it's too holy for them to speak.
Mm-hmm.
So... Quote, not only are the Nagas the owners of the waterways, but they are also owners of the land too. Prior to striking the first pole of a house into the ground, certain ritual ceremonies must be performed to ask the Nagas permission, and the structure of the house itself must follow the patterns of Naga movements and positions, end quote. So, if you're building a house in Thailand, you gotta ask the Naga for permission first, and then build the house in such a way that the Naga can get around it.
That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
But how do you ask it permission? Did you look into that?
No, I did not. I didn't see that in my research, but that's interesting.
Ah,
You probably go to a temple and beseech it, or you do what I'm about to talk about next. And I wanted to make sure I brought this up because I think this is pertinent to the movie. Nagas can also use humans as mediums. Mm-hmm. There's one that was mentioned in this source. Her name, by the name of Mei Kwan. She was interviewed. She's an orphan, in destitute, and works at a temple in Chiang Saen. And she claims that a Naga has possessed her. And she says that this has made a lot of people come to visit her to ask her to predict rainfall or to tell if someone is sick. Apparently, she's very accurate at foreseeing all of this. She is a devout Buddhist. I'm assuming it's a woman anyway, but devout Buddhist. And there's a few more details that she gets into about that, but I just thought that was interesting. Oh, she says that the Naga sometimes communicate through a yellow gem-like oval-shaped stone, which she says she allowed the interviewer to touch during their conversation. And she believes that the reason the Naga come to her is to help guide the populace through her to the calamity that will befall Yonok, make sure it doesn't happen. How's that for wild? Again, I bring that up because I wonder if that might have factored into this movie with the psychic, empathetic connections that a couple of our... one character for sure has, and then if you watch the extended ending, we've got another one.
Yeah, I think without a shadow of a doubt, I think that's part of what's going on.
Yep. So, because the Naga have a protective role of the Buddha on his journey to enlightenment, the Naga are celebrated in Thailand, and that's why they have a very common appearance in their architecture and in their sacred places. So if you go to Buddhist temples, which are called Wats, W-A-T, in Thailand, you will see statues of them all over the place, guarding the temples to keep out the evil spirits. And there's a lot, very intricate sculptures and a lot of I saw pictures of different ones at different places, and they all look really different from each other. I also read a little bit of a story of a I don't know if he was American, but you had this Caucasian tourist who decided to be incredibly disrespectful toward one of the statues by... Sure, I'll warn everybody. Mom and Dad, this is probably the most PG-13 thing we're going to talk about today. He decided to dry hump one of the Naga statues because he thought it was funny.
Wow.
Yeah, that didn't go over very well.
I bet not.
Yeah. But
what was his punishment?
I don't remember, but they didn't. The person who wrote it didn't know what happened to the person. It got a lot of disapproval. Yeah,
they took him out. They took him out back.
Yeah, they took him out back. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, but all these statues are to symbolize the Naga's continuous vigilance over the sacred grounds, and their association with the
and that guy defecated it.
Desecrated it. Desecrated.
Desecrated.
Not defecated. He did not defecated. Desecrated. What the heck, man? That got weird. Sorry. PG-13 material. All right. And interestingly, because the Naga are so closely associated with water, the temple designs often depict them as emerging from a water source. And also, because they're associated with water and rainfall, they are also associated with prosperity and fertility. And it says devotees often make offerings to the Naga as a gesture of gratitude so they can have protection. Because the Naga, from what I was reading, is like some Naga are evil, some Naga are good, but usually they're kind of somewhere in between.
Yeah, they're neutral. They're the way that you just described them in their statues and they're looming and standing over holy territory. It gives me gargoyle vibes. So it's
yes.
Like, they're version of a gargoyle.
Yeah, gargoyles on churches that are there to protect the church, ward off evil spirits, scare them away. If Okinawa with the Shisa statues, which I'll be getting into that when I get to Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla 74. I'll be talking about that. I've written about that before for Kaiju Ramen. Oh, and I gave you republished the article for me on Kaiju Kaiju United, talking about that.
I did, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great article, yeah.
You're welcome.
Do that shameless plug.
Yeah. Yes, we're a little early again. All right, shameless self-promotion for later. But here's something interesting. Only in Buddhism are the Naga viewed as celestial. And that's because the Buddhists believe that the Naga are the servants of, and again, I'm probably going to butcher this, because there's two different names for this person. TofuFury, also known as Virupaksha. I probably butchered it horribly. Who is one of the four heavenly kings who guards the west direction of the cardinal directions. And he has been tasked with protecting the teachings of Buddha. And Buddhists also depict the Naga as dwelling in the heavens, which is a big departure from the folkloric depictions of them where they dwell beneath. And the celestial level that the Naga are associated with is called the Tavatimsa, which is part of the Buddhist cosmology. And they are depicted as not only divine, but they're adorned with crowns and jewels. They're very virtuous and powerful, and they have direct access to the deities and are respected for their wisdom and guidance.
There's a lot of, oh man, I don't think that's a word. These, again, very regal sounding, very esteemed, very, even if they're not divine, they are still of great importance and stature. I never knew the Buddhist connection either. This is particularly fascinating to me.
Well, and then here's the other interesting thing. So, we talked about them being associated with water, and then you have the divine ones. And I think this probably goes back to more of the folkloric depictions, but because they're associated with water and living in bodies of water, they are often considered to be the cause of drowning. Which, again, goes back to the movie, because what happens is we have this very Spielbergian thing, because I know Lee mentioned that he loves Spielberg as one of his directorial influences. We have this kind of Jaws-esque scene where the small one is sneaking up on Kang in the water. Also, I think he was going after after May as well.
Both of them, yeah.
Yeah. So, because water is associated with death, because of drowning, water is regarded as a portal between realms. Kind of like the river Styx in Greek mythology, which makes the fact that this movie is called The Lake kind of interesting, because if these really are Naga, because that was what, like I kind of like to think of them as, then the lake becomes a spiritual portal to the land of the dead.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Quote, there is a similar belief in the Lana Kingdom of Thailand, whereupon funerary rites involve placing a small packet of cooked rice into a shoulder bag laid in the coffin. This is done in order to aid the dead in crossing the bridge over the river to the opposite side, as there would be no return once the dead person reached the other side, and scholars have found that this belief existed among the Thai in general, being shared by the ethnic race of the Thai Yai and the Thai Lu. So there you go. So that's connecting these these death rituals with the Naga.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
So much to unpack.
Yeah, man, I'm not even going over everything I found. So, next thing I want to talk about is there are, from what I've been able to determine, there are 4 types of quote-unquote royal Naga in Thai mythology. I'm probably going to butcher these names, but I will do my best. First up, we have the Virapakas. These are associated with the celestial world and are known for their golden hue, so they have golden skin. They have regal appearances, and they're considered symbols of prosperity, wealth, and spiritual enlightenment. And those are the ones you will typically see depicted at temples and cultural art. So those are the celestial ones that we talked about. And then you have the Erapatha. Again, I hope I said that right. These Naga are green, and if I was a betting man, I think Big Mama is an Erapatha for this reason. Quote, they are closely associated with the natural world, particularly water sources such as rivers, lakes, and oceans. Erapatha Nagas are believed to have a strong connection to fertility and agricultural abundance. End quote. So if I was going...
Yeah, that matches up.
Yep. So if I was to give a fancier official name to Big Mama, it would be Erapatha.
That's a cool name.
Yeah.
That sounds like a kaiju name.
It does sound like a kaiju name. And then the next one, oh man, the name on this one. I'm going to do my best. Okay. The Chabibiutas? Chabaiputas. I'm butchering it horribly. I'm sorry. Everyone, please join MIFV Max on Patreon so you can read my notes. My research notes and see how to do this, or check the sources on the MIFV website. These are multicolored Nagas, and they have a diverse spectrum of colors, and they represent vibrancy of life and the interconnectedness of different aspects of the universe. And these are the ones who are protectors of sacred places and gateways. And then finally, and I'm probably going to mess this one up too, it's Kanhagotamakas. Okay? They are black, and they are associated with the subterranean and hidden realm. So these are the ones that live in the underworld. And they're believed to have mystical powers and are sometimes linked to secret knowledge and ancient wisdom. Ooh.
Whoa.
Yep. So I've got 2 more quick little points of trivia, more or less trivia, that I do want to bring up related to this. So that's all the mythical stuff. But, interesting thing, as of November 2022, the Thai government has declared the Naga, and this is why I have little doubt that this is what Lee was talking about. They have declared that the Naga are the national symbol of Thailand. And they did this
go ahead.
I was going to say, and they did this in the hope of promoting Thai culture and traditions. And to increase the country's cultural capital to drive the creative economy. And this is all because of how closely tied it is to them and their culture. Quote, the National Culture Commission and the Fine Arts Department developed a prototype image of the Naga that accurately represents Thai beliefs and traditions related to the creature. The prototype image features the 4 families of Nagas, each with its unique color, and the largest Naga, Nak Vasuki, who is related to Buddhism and the Thai monarchy. So yes.
That's really cool.
Yep. So now the Naga is the national symbol of Thailand, which I think is pretty cool. Now, here's something. Now, this is wild. This is wild. And from what I've heard, I think I've heard that there are some spots they've seen some spikes in this phenomena, which I think is one thing that Jimmy's been using to try to locate Arapatha, Big Mama, or whatever, because we're still trying to wrangle these kaiju to send them back to the island. Have you ever heard of a Naga fireball?
No, I have not.
It's not booze, in case you were wondering. Although it does sound like it does sound like a drink, though, doesn't it? Of course, the resident alcoholic with PTSD around here would want to suggest that to the island as a possible new drink. Yeah. But it's also called a Mekong light or ghost light. And this is actually a phenomenon that happens annually at the Mekong River, on the Mekong River. You have glowing balls that supposedly naturally rise out of the water and into the air, sometimes several hundred feet. And they're said to be reddish and range in size from small sparkles to the size of basketballs. So they go up into the sky and they disappear. The number of them that's been reported varies between tens and thousands per night. Now, there have been some explanations. No, what were you going to ask?
I was going to say, remind me how frequent this happens. Did you say annually?
Annually.
It's just like once a year.
Yes, this happens.
Thousands of
over
balls.
a long stretch, from what I read, over a long stretch of the river too. Like several, I think a couple hundred miles of the river, like miles and miles of the river. This happens. Explanations have been offered for what these really are, and they have ranged from. This is just crazy to me. So, there have been some who have tried to say, "Oh, those are tracer rounds from the military." What? Some have said that they're flare guns. Some have said it's flammable phosphine gas that's coming out of the water. And some have tried to get really crazy with it. Yes, I know this is your favorite theory, Jimmy, because it's the most sciencey. Quote unquote. You ready for this? You ready for this? You might want to sit down again, for this, Jacob. Free-floating plasma orbs. That is an exact quotation. Free-floating plasma orbs. This sounds like something I would see in an anime. Free-floating plasma orbs.
I love it. This is great.
Yeah. And apparently none of the explanations that have been presented have been satisfactory for most people because this is such a strange phenomenon. Well, I think we know what it really is then. It probably really is the Naga. Just saying.
Makes the most sense to me. Plasma? No.
Yeah, free-floating plasma orbs. Sure, that's what we'll call our next band. We're the free-floating plasma orbs. Like I said, there's more that I could get into, but these were what I thought were the most important points or the ones that I thought tied the most to the movie. So I'm sticking to my guns on this. I would, if you ever get a hold of Lee again, please ask him. It's like, were you talking about the Naga when you're telling me about the local legends that inspired this movie?
It might happen. Since his film is now playing at G-Fest this year, there's been inquiries about him and if he wants to come.
I was going to say, yeah, because the lake is being shown as part of the Independent Film Festival.
Yes. As far as I'm aware, he has said, I would love to come. I am just busy making movies, which is makes a lot of sense because he's got the Medusa movie, he's got Kitty the Killer, he's got all these other movies. Bro told me in our interview he was working on 4 movies at the time, so
that's
a lot of work.
He's the Guillermo del Toro of Thailand.
Yeah, he's a workhorse, man.
I mean, I know the feeling. I tend to do the same thing. All right.
Don't you have like three? Do you have like 3 podcasts, Nathan?
At one point, I had 3 podcasts. Plus everything else that I do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You get it.
Yeah, I totally get it. Any further thoughts on the Naga, or are we good to start closing up shop?
I think we're good, man. I think you covered it. You gave like a TED talk on the Naga.
Well, like I said, you should see my notes. I had stuff I didn't go over. All right, let's move on. Alrighty, so I do have a little bit of listener feedback that I want to go over. I'm not going to go over all of it. There's some other stuff. Jimmy, you got a very interesting question from a listener. Yeah, I'm going to save it for our next episode because I think this is something you might want to ponder a little bit. I'll tell you about it after we're done. But I'm going to go over some YouTube comments because we've been getting a fair amount of... I kind of like how we've been getting YouTube comments, for the YouTube versions of our episodes, and I did want to go over some of them. And this one is kind of pertinent, Jacob, because it sort of involves our mutual friend Elijah. And the reason I say sort of is because it's somebody leaving a comment on our episode on Zillafoot. Have you seen Zillafoot, Jacob?
Yeah, I think I got like halfway through it.
Oh, but you at least saw the part with Elijah, right?
Yeah, the most important part, Nathan.
The most important part, the best part? Did you see Danny? Did you see Danny DiManna? He was in part. I
did see Danny. Danny was in that movie.
He was. So you at least saw our friends in it. That's good. I understand that you only got halfway through. But anyway, in what still remains the definitive podcast episode on this movie, you can call it that, we got a comment here from username Altered Cortex Design 1197. He writes, quote, "Some buds and I did the military scenes. We filmed them in an old warehouse for it. We had plans for the scenes, but we managed to catch the 40-minute cut and realized the film wasn't very serious to begin with, so we chose to have fun," end quote. So more people who were in the movie talking about what they did in the movie. All right, now we've got basically a 3-part comment here from Trev Tom's Cult Classic Corner on the annual Harryhausen episode that Elijah and I did this year. It was on Golden Voyage of Sinbad. So he writes, like I said, we're going to take this in, he had to put this down in 3 chunks. So first up, quote, "Golden Voyage is absolutely a movie that needs to be in the general conversation more when it comes to Harryhausen. It's certainly beloved among Harryhausen diehards. If Clash of the Titans is Ray's genre reprisal of his previous success with Jason and the Argonauts, Golden Voyage is the same for Seventh Voyage, with Eye of the Tiger being a Golden Voyage cash-in cobbled together from leftover ideas. I remember being absolutely awestruck following my discovery of Harryhausen through Seventh Voyage and Clash back in the mid to late 90s, when seeing the film spotlighted along with Ray's whole career in the Harryhausen Chronicles documentary narrated by Leonard Nimoy. I need to find this documentary, if for no other reason than Leonard Nimoy.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Yeah. Golden Voyage remains my second fave behind Clash." And then in the next part of his comment, where I'm going to have to come to Elijah's defense a little bit here, he says, "Also, actually corrections. The bit about Martin Shaw seems to be an IMDb faux pas. Martin Shaw played Sinbad's right-hand man in this, Rashid. Robert Shaw, who had wanted to play Sinbad in his youth, voiced and played the Oracle, but remained uncredited because if he wasn't the lead, he thought it was beneath him. The Cyclops also only appears in Seventh Voyage. Nate, you might be thinking of Talos, the man of bronze and Argonauts, which, yeah, that's probably true. However, a colony of Cyclopses would have appeared in the proposed third Greek mythology Harryhausen epic Force of the Trojans." what I'm looking for. Yeah, here's where I had to come to Elijah's defense a little bit here. Because Trev says, and bless him, but Elijah is a bit of a nitpicky wet blanket. And he puts a laughing emoji. He's not the only guy who's appeared on this podcast with a quote-unquote rep, but kudos to Nate for looking past these qualities and having conversations with these folks with a winky emoji.
Wow.
And I wrote...
What's this guy going to say about me?
Yeah, who knows at this point. But I wrote in response, and I'll reiterate it here on the air. In Elijah's defense, we all have moments like that as fans. If you listen to my podcast on the regular, you'll hear the infamous Rant Master sounder. And I put a laughing emoji. And then Trev replied, yes, and to be fair, he had lots of positive things to say this go around. So there you go, Elijah. I defended your honor. And the guy was nice about it. And then just one last quick little thing from someone this is quite a name. Captain Chivalry version 2? Because it says V2. He says the best thing about this movie was Carolyn Monroe.
All right, thanks, Captain Chivalry.
Yeah, that makes your name a little ironic. I mean, I'm not going to disagree. Carolyn Monroe was great, but I wouldn't say it's the best thing in the movie. If the eye candy is better than the Harryhausen effects, I think you're doing it wrong. Just saying.
Oh.
Any thoughts on those comments, Jacob?
Oh, man. I don't actually think I've seen the Sinbad film you guys are covering, so I don't want to comment too much because the one guy that went after Elijah might come after me. I've only seen the Seventh Voyage of Sinbad, and I love that movie. That movie is one of the greatest movies of all time.
The first one.
Yes, I haven't seen the other two. I think it's Golden Voyage and then Eye of the Tiger.
Yeah, Elijah and I covered that last year, and there weren't as many Rocky and Foreigner references as you would have thought.
Dang. No Survivor either, huh?
Yeah. No, we still made the references. There just weren't as many as you would have thought.
That's a shame.
Yeah. All right.
I don't like talking. Oh, one more. I just was gonna say I don't like talking about movies that I haven't seen because I don't want to be like, I don't know, uninformed or something.
Oh yeah.
Whatever the word for that is.
Misinformed, uninformed. Yeah, I understand.
Misinformed.
Yeah. All right, but now we come to a very important segment of the show because it helps keep the lights on because honestly, I get more money from them than I do from the board. Come at me, guys. Come at me, bro. The Patreon shout-outs!
I shall ask thee once again, will you chant my name?
Danny DiManna!
Eli Harris.
Bex from Redeemed Otaku!
David Noyes!
Our executive producer at this point, The Soulcast!
Erik Anderson of the Nerd Chapel.
Ted Williams!
Wynja the Ninja.
Christopher Riner!
The Indiscreet One.
Or Indiscrite? I don't know. Please explain. I need to know. Jake Hambrick!
Matthew Walsh. But not that Matt Walsh.
Jonathan Courtright!
Leon Campbell.
Michael Watson! And making his grand return, Edwin Gonzalez! And our newest patron, Erik Pearl! TofuFury! We were talking about Dragon Ball Z. I feel like Goku after eating a Naga.
Oh, you gotta chill down there, buddy.
Chill out. I mean, come on, dude. This broadcast is going out literally days before G-Fest. We're all excited, okay?
Yeah, we're all pumped.
We're all pumped up.
All I knew that was coming.
Yeah, you knew it was coming. Come on, you introduced me to a dude who on Instagram, like that's his whole shtick.
And it's amazing.
You kept sending me stuff. It's like, dude, this is Nathan. I'm like, he does it better than I do.
Y'all should team up.
Yeah, we should team up. You're dueling Arnolds. Oh man. All right. So, like I said, we got to wrap things up here. So, next couple episodes that we got going on. So, we're getting back to Godzilla Redux with our next episode, and we're making our way through the 70s movies of the Showa era, and our next one is what I will argue. I have been arguing this for years now, and I will continue to argue this. I believe it is a criminally underrated and underappreciated entry in the Godzilla franchise, Godzilla vs. Gigan.
Nate, it is actually my favorite Godzilla film.
What?
It is the first Godzilla film of the Toho library that I saw as a kid. I will defend Godzilla vs. Gigan any day of the week.
Oh,
it is perfect.
Oh,
it's got
Lordy.
one of the best human cast. He's like, you're talking my language. The human cast is so memorable, and the ensemble is perfect. You got the corn on the cob hippie, you got the manga artists, you got the weird swearing in a rated PG movie in the English dub. Yeah.
Oh, Lordy. I may have to have you on with my friend Danny DiManna of the Godzilla Novelization Project, because we have both been making valiant defenses of this movie for a while now. We even did a panel at G-Fest, our very first panel together, where we talked about screenwriters Takashi Kimura Takashi Kimura, not Shimura, Kimura. Takashi Kimura, a.k.a. Kaoru Mabuchi, and Shinichi Sekizawa, and we spotlighted that movie because they kind of sort of worked on it together, and we feel like there's an interesting blending of both of their very different sensibilities in it, which is something that we'll get into. Man, I'm either going to have you on, or you can just send me some pre-feedback that I can read on the air for this movie.
Either or. I can't wait to hear your guys' thoughts.
All right. And then for the world tour, we're getting out of Asia and we're going to Europe. We're going to keep going west because we still got more kaiju to wrangle after we're done here in Thailand. We're going to Norway. Take a wild guess what we're talking about, Jake.
Oh, no. Troll Hunter.
Yes, Troll Hunter. Not Troll, the Netflix movie. I've already talked about that one. I did an MIFV Max episode with Danny and my friend Michael Hamilton about it. So if you're curious about that one, go listen to that. We're going to be talking about Troll Hunter, which should be kind of fun. And I'll be joined by my friend Erik Anderson of Nerd Chapel, who you just heard shouted out during the Patreon shoutouts, which, by the way, if you would like to get shoutouts like that, among other things, including behind-the-scenes content and all the audio that I cut from the live broadcast, because, oh boy, you should hear some of the bloopers. We'd probably get canceled. How dare you blackmail me with that? So go and join MIFV Max on Patreon for as little as $3 a month to get in on that. Anyway, so yes, Troll Hunter. And then, right after that, I will be doing a solo bonus episode on a really obscure independent kaiju movie that also fits in with the World Tour theme. Jacob, did you ever hear of The Barbados Project?
I know the name. I haven't actually seen the movie. That sounds super interesting.
It's a found footage, kind of low budget kaiju film from the island from the island nation of Barbados. It is a weird little movie, which is one of the many things I will be getting into about it.
I'm into it. I'll check it out this weekend. I got some free time during the G-Fest prep, so maybe
All right.
I'll watch that.
Well, we'll talk after the show. All right. But now, speaking of after the show, we come to a very important segment, Jacob. One of the most meme-tastic things that I do, apparently. Shameless self-promotion! So congratulations, you're getting your first one here on the Monster Island Film Vault. So, Jacob, what do you got to tell all the peoples about where to find you and all the cool stuff that you're doing?
Oh boy, where to start? So, as the introduction in the podcast stated, I am the editor-in-chief and founder and everyman at this point of KaijuUnited.com, Kaiju United, the Facebook group, just a whole community organization where I take what at least I think, and a lot of people that help us out think, are some of the best of the community. We want to uplift the community, provide them a place where they can submit whenever they feel like it. And even new writers in the community. We house several writers that have never been published before, and we feel like that we could be a nice developmental house for burgeoning writers in the community. I think of the example, not to pat myself on the back, but Forrest J. Ackerman of Famous Monsters had a 10-year-old Stephen King write to him once and was like, I'm Stephen King, here's my story. And Forrest Ackerman was like, hey, that's a cool story, kid. And it was Stephen King. Sorry, language, but
jet. We got a jet. We got a jet.
Be a place where the next Fangoria writer says, hey, Kaiju United gave me a start. That is what we want to do. So we just want to be a force of positivity and uplift the community, especially right now. Like, we're not going to dive into that crap.
No.
But we're not going to. But right now it's great to have a place where the community is positive and writes and creates and does all this cool stuff. G-Fest is coming up. I don't think this episode's coming out before it. Probably
I'll do my best to get it out before.
See a lot of.
I'll do my best to get it out before, but we'll see.
You're going to see some unprecedented coverage. I've got a whole team of true believers, as Stan Lee would put it, and we're going to cover the show on a level that hasn't really been done before. Like, you get your vlogs and stuff, but we're going to really provide coverage to G-Fest. We're also partnering with them on some stuff, and we're an official sponsor, so that's cool. Besides that, I am an avid film buff, so I'll probably go watch some movies this weekend and maybe write about them. We'll see. I have a kaiju puppet practical effects piece that is waiting for me to film. So,
oh, exciting!
Much like Elijah, I would like to make movies, so maybe we'll start working on that. I have 2 screenplays that are just kind of chilling because I'm so busy with KU. But hey, we'll see. So.
Hey,
right now my life's mostly Kaiju United.
I was going to say, if you need some writerly feedback on your scripts, call me. Anyway, speaking of shameless self-promotion. Yeah,
go ahead, Nathan.
Yeah, I was just going to say, definitely listen to the credits to get all of the pertinent information for the Film Vault. Oh, do you have any socials that you want to promote?
Yeah, I would say you can find me on most socials. You can follow my LinkedIn or Facebook as my name. Kaiju United is on almost every social media as Kaiju United. I would recommend you follow us there. Go to KaijuUnited.com, of course, to read Nathan's pieces or any other pieces that are cool. And yeah, just don't be a stranger. We got a nice community Facebook group called Kaiju United, the official Facebook group. And yeah, we're around. So give us a follow. Come say hi. We're not, don't be a stranger.
Right. Like I said, for all of the important information, socials and all that for the Film Vault, listen to the credits, because you should always listen to the credits. If you are interested in learning more about me as a writer, or actually also as a voice actor, go to my author website, nathanjsmarchand.com, and you'll find links to all of my books and some of my work, and to my authorly socials. And also go give a listen and a follow and whatnot to Scyther Inc. Productions, founded by Carl Dutton. I am part of his stable of actors for both Power Rangers, the audio drama, and X-Men, the audio drama. And on X-Men, oh my gosh, never in my life would I have thought I would play this character, but Deadpool.
You have the voice for it.
Apparently I do. That's what I've been told. And I infamously play my ex-roommate Rito on Power Rangers, the audio drama, and I keep getting requests to play both of those characters in other places besides Scyther. They're never going to leave me. But I will also be making my debut in Avengers, the audio drama, as Johnny Storm, baby. Hopefully very soon. I've been hyping
Flame
that.
on!
Flame on! I've been hyping that for months now, and I'm just waiting for it to get done. Every time I think it's gonna be out, it's not. So, Mitch, please get it over with. All right, I have to hear it. I don't get to be Steve Rogers, but I get the next best thing because it's literally the same actor. Please look forward to that. So that's basically everything. So thank you once again for joining me today, Jacob. I know it was a little bit last minute, but I'm glad you escaped North Korean Buc-ee's and got over here.
Hey, no worries. Thanks for having me. And if you could drop me off at the Norway Buc-ee's, that would be phenomenal.
Oh, okay. Might be a little while because we still got some stuff we need to do around here in Thailand. So I would say, go get yourself a nice hotel in Bangkok for a little while. And, you can work remote for Kaiju United. You'll be okay, right?
Yeah, that'll be all right.
Yeah,
I can get an Uber or something.
Yeah. The Thai Ubers, you should be fine. Yeah, you'll be okay. You'll be okay. Oh, really? You think you may have located them? All right. Well, we should probably take care of that because that's the whole reason that we're on this glorified fetch quest. So, with that, hey, Jimmy, cue the credits. Thank you for listening to the Monster Island Film Vault, a podcast produced and hosted by Nate Marchand. Our executive producer is Damon Noyes. If you want to be heard on the show, we'd love to hear from you, so email us at monsterislandfilmvault@gmail.com. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and TikTok. You can also follow Jimmy from NASA on Twitter and our many colorful characters using the links in the show notes, which are on our website, monsterislandfilmvault.com. Don't forget to join our official Facebook group and Discord server, The Markalite Lounge. Our podcast logo was designed by Rebecca Hudgens. Follow her on Twitter and Instagram at super_R_illustrations. Sound effects sourced from freesound.org and created by JP Gant. Our theme song is Wanderer on the Offensive, live edit by B33J, Sarax, Juan Madrono, and Nonsensical Lexus, which is a remix of Counterattack and The Opened Way by Kowatani from Shadow of the Colossus. Additional music includes Every Country Has a Monster, performed by Jonah Ray, and Chant My Name, a cover by Second Archive of the song by Masaki Endo. All film and audio clips belong to their respective copyright holders, and no infringement is intended or implied. Please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and/or Podchaser to spread the word about the show. You can even support us by joining MIFV Max on Patreon. MIFV is a Moonlighting Ninjas media production and a proud member of Pod Nation. Sayonara!